So we are attempting video for the first time.
For the second time.
For the second time. This is actually, we already recorded this, and which is kind of funny. But yeah, there's so much that goes into a video podcast that you don't think of until you try doing it. And we are 40 minutes late to when we usually start recording just because we were making sure all our I's were dotted and T's are crossed. So hopefully this doesn't crash and burn. Hopefully you get a nice video podcast on YouTube tomorrow.
Three beautiful faces in your inbox.
Yes, see what we look like for the first time. But if not, just know that we tried. Hey, and welcome back to Game Talk. I'm your host, Emmett Beyond. Today I'm joined by Connor.
Hey, guys.
And Mike.
Hello.
And today is our 200th episode, which is insane to say out loud. This is also the first time we're doing a video show, so hopefully that works and actually gets posted to YouTube. We'll see how this goes in post, but either way, we're going to have the audio, so enjoy. And for our 200th episode, we thought we would do our top 10 games of all time. So each of our top 10s. So you're going to get a list of 30 games. So you're going to be here for a while.
Yeah, the fun thing about this is the listeners can already look and see how long this episode is. But the three of us...
Oh, we have no idea.
We have no idea. We have no idea.
Minimum 2 hours. Probably going to be over 3 hours is my guess.
Yeah, just like last time.
Just like... we've recorded these long episodes in the past, and I don't think this will beat our Games That Define Us episode, but I don't know. We'll see.
It could. How do we decide who goes first?
So let's just go ahead and get started. We can wax poetic about 200 episodes after if we're feeling up to it.
Well,
but
let's talk about how we formed our list maybe for a little.
Yeah. So our lists.
So my process,
Yeah, you go ahead, Connor.
My process was I sat down and I wrote down every game I knew of that I thought should be in the conversation of the top 10 games ever. And then I ordered those from, in my opinion, best to worst. And then I just kind of messed with it until it felt right. Because that didn't quite get me there. There were a few games that felt like top 10ers, but weren't necessarily better than all the other games, if that makes sense, for it to be my list.
Yeah, it is this weird confluence of you want to be objective about it, but you also you can't be objective about it because it's your list, right?
No, my list is objective. These are the 10 best games.
Oh yeah, of all time. But
all time.
For me, the big struggle was reconciling nostalgia with more modern games, because I really do believe games have just gotten better over the years. But nostalgia is a powerful force too that I had to factor into my list. So some of these picks, some of these games I haven't played in a very, very long time.
I had the opposite problem.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I did not do any of this. I woke up yesterday morning and I said,
yeah, that checks out.
Oh God, I need to do a top 10, and I just went straight off vibes.
But you did it yesterday morning.
Great vibes. Yeah.
You didn't do it today.
I did not do it today.
Okay, so you're fine.
Straight vibes.
I did it.
Emmett did it today.
But honestly, this is a vibes-based list above anything. It has to be, because
it is.
And I will say for myself that if you ask me tomorrow, this list could look different. But this is the list I decided on today, how I felt today, what my top 10 games of all time are.
See, in order to fight that, I did look at this list on 3 different days to try to see how I felt.
Yeah, so your list is probably
objectively the best games. Yeah,
the most
the most true to me. Yeah,
the most true to you. So I think we should just go ahead.
I had to fight the opposite of recency bias because there are a few games in here that have had updates recently that I don't like, or that I played to death and now I don't actually want to play them anymore. But I thinking about them that I do think they are the best, but I wouldn't want to play them. So that was difficult for me. So kind of the opposite of recency bias.
Yeah, a lot of things to think about when forming a list like this, and inevitably we're gonna make everyone mad with our lists. So look forward to that.
That's we're gonna make each other mad.
We'll probably make each other mad too.
Likely. I'm already mad at Ahmed.
Yeah, you already know. Like Connor already knows what probably is on my list, and he's gonna hate me for it. But let's start with our honorable mentions. I think we each have a few, right?
Okay.
Um,
2.
I have 3.
okay, I have 4, I think. So
Wow.
let's try and be quick, but
Try and be
obviously
quick, 'cause
no
they're just
promises
honorable
here.
mentions.
No promises. So my honorable mentions are, and before we get started, one last note: if we mention a game that is on another person's list, if your game gets brought up, just don't say anything about it until you talk about it, because it should be your experience with the game, right?
Right.
So if either of you are suspiciously quiet for a game that I feel like you should have something to say about,
don't you worry about that.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay, so my honorable mentions are The Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion. This
Why
had to
did I
make
not
my
put
list.
that on mine.
See, already,
Actually.
Mike.
No, he
The
didn't put that
vibes-based
on.
list.
I didn't put that on mine. No,
Well,
I
that
forgot it
surprises
existed.
Yeah,
me.
that
Like,
surprises me
I would have
too. That's a
expected
good
you to
game.
put.
You know what? I'm reworking my list actively in this
Okay.
podcast. I have one that I will replace.
All right,
probably
do
later.
it. Yeah, do it. So Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion. I've talked about this game on the show in the past. This was my introduction to Elder Scrolls games, and it
Mine
really grabbed a hold of me. And obviously, at the time playing Skyrim, it felt like it was just Oblivion but better. But with the benefit of hindsight now, looking back at those two
Oblivion's-
games, I think Oblivion is the better game. And obviously, nostalgia is also a factor in that. I've not played Oblivion in a long time, but I will absolutely revisit it when Microsoft puts out that remake that's supposedly coming. All right, moving on to my next honorable mention, Banjo-Kazooie. This platformer for me is the platformer of my childhood. Obviously, my first platformer was Mario 64, but Banjo-Kazooie just kind of captured me in a way that it really enraptured me more than Mario 64. I think it was because of the bigger emphasis on like the characters and the story and just that colorful world. But it didn't make my list, but I had to acknowledge it. Wow, your cat just went at the camera.
It was
That's
scary.
crazy. That's like never happened before.
He doesn't have good balance. I thought he was gonna fall through my PC. Oh my god, that was terrifying.
Oh, sorry. I have 5 honorable mentions, so I'll try to be quick.
5.
The next game on my honorable mentions is Hitman World of Assassination. I had to bring this game up. I couldn't fit it anywhere on my list, but
It's an amazing game.
this is one of the best games ever made,
Yeah, it is.
especially after like
the value
when all
of
is
all
said
three.
and done.
Yeah.
All 3 games in one plus the roguelike mode is just an unbelievable.
The
what you're
roguelike mode alone, the roguelike mode alone only works with the 3 games, so that's kind of a dumb thing to say, but
Yeah, I mean, there's just so much variety. Some of the best designed levels in video games, period, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So I just had to shout it out. It's such an incredible game. Next game on my list is honorable mention, Hollow Knight. I had to put this on here as well. Love Hollow Knight. It really kind of, I want to say, introduced me to Metroidvanias, because I
It did that
didn't
for a lot
really
of people.
play Metroidvanias before Hollow Knight, and it kind of brought me into this world that and now Metroidvanias are like one of my favorite genre of game.
Yeah.
So and plus the really gloomy atmosphere, it kind of borrowed that Souls kind of aesthetic too, and that really appealed to me. Plus the art style is just gorgeous. And it's, yeah, I had to bring it up here. And my final honorable mention is Dark Souls. So Dark Souls, for me, I mean, again, was my introduction into this world from Software games. Obviously, it was a lot of people's introduction. It was like kind of the first one that really took the world by storm. Demon Souls was the first, but Dark Souls was the popular one. And it changed the way I play games forever. It changed my taste in games. And beyond that, I think we've talked about Dark Souls at length on this show, so I'm going to leave it at that. So those are my honorable mentions, those 5 games.
I'm going to do 5 because you did 5. I'll be
Okay.
quicker than you though. Number 5, Unpacking. This is like one of the most beautiful stories in a game. Like as far as how it's delivered, it's a game that the gameplay is unpacking boxes as this girl moves into a new home, and it's like point and click. And it's just, even by itself, even if it didn't have a story, if it was just a very zen experience, I think it would be really good. But the story just elevates it, in my opinion, in a huge way. I felt all of the moves that the girl did, and it was meaningful to me. Next is Inscription. I really like this game. It mixes a lot of things I like. Roguelikes, mysteries. It's a roguelike card game where
Love
you
Inscription.
can get up from the table and interact with stuff. Just a brilliant puzzle box that my only complaint with it is that I wanted more at the end. I wanted way more. And not more of the roguelike. I wanted more of the puzzle. I really liked the puzzle. Honorable mention number 3, Kerbal Space Program. Taught me physics, frankly. I remember thinking about this game in my physics class in high school. I loved it. I spent many, many hours flying to different celestial bodies in this game. Just really gave me a love of aerospace stuff. Not enough to actually go into it for aerospace engineering or anything, but I love Kerbal Space Program, and it
Surprised
breaks
that's
my
not
heart.
on your list.
Breaks my heart to see. It was this. These were tough. These were very tough cuts.
Yeah.
Number 2 is Sea of Thieves. Sea of Thieves would probably be top 5 for me if it wasn't a buggy mess full of hackers. If it was like a functional video game, it'd probably be top 5. But the cons of that game break it. But it's just such a good social sandbox. You sail around, you steal from other players. The fun, really 100% of the fun is coming from other people, but it's just enhanced so much by the excellent mechanics. I really like it. And honorable mention number 1 is Alan Wake 2. This is just a game that fires on all cylinders. I love the story. The writing is amazing. I think the visuals are incredible. But the combat kind of loses it enough points to not make top 10 for me.
Yeah, and especially like in this territory, even the smallest demerit is enough to knock something off the list. So
yeah.
All right, Mike, what are your honorable mentions?
Okay, I did come up with 5. So I'm gonna I came up with like 3 more off my list. But my first one was actually Wild Arms 3. I did make myself a rule I had to finish the games to put them in the top 10 list.
Excellent rule.
I've never finished Wild Arms 3. It's a game that I've tried to finish multiple times. What can I say? I've talked about on the show, Anime Wild West. It's great. Second one, Star Wars Battlefront 2, the 2006 version.
Yeah, the good one.
Oh,
the
peak
game.
Fantastic game.
My first FPS.
So much of it as a kid. One of my first FPSs.
It's in our Games That Made Us episode, I think, for sure.
I think it is. Yeah, it's definitely a game that has altered my taste in games, but that's old. It's real old.
It's old.
Yeah, I think I put Ratchet & Clank 4, which I think was Deadlocked, which was the first one I played as a kid, I guess.
Is that the multiplayer one?
That is the one where you're in like an arena.
Yeah, the game show
arena.
arena.
Weird, but it's the game show arena one.
I love that game. That was my first Ratchet & Clank.
It was a lot of fun. It was the first one that I played all the way through. I did kind of go back and play 1 through 3 later.
Yeah.
But
it's very
4
different.
has a special place in my heart. This one's gonna hurt some people. Minecraft didn't make it in.
Yeah.
Minecraft did not make it into my top 10.
Yeah.
It's a game that I spent a lot of time with. I played it so much, but I just don't have the desire to ever go back and play it, you know?
I'm glad even if it doesn't make any of our lists, I'm glad you shouted it out.
It's worth shouting out.
Saying it.
I mean, we all have a history with Minecraft. But I thought about putting it on the list as well.
Yeah, me too.
Everyone does. My last game is actually Killzone 2, which was my first online multiplayer shooter.
Yeah.
And it
Everybody
definitely altered my tastes for games.
Yeah.
Stellar shooter, stellar franchise. Shame Guerrilla Games will never touch it again.
It's a shame that it just wasn't more popular. It's
I mean, it got 4 games. The 4th game was kind of a disappointment, but I enjoyed it nonetheless.
It had a Vita game, didn't it?
It also had a Vita game, yeah.
It's just a shame that Guerrilla's never going to touch that franchise because Horizon
got the
Zero
cash
Dawn prints money. It's a shame.
Well, you never know.
Really
Sony could give the IP to someone else, but yeah.
And it did have that certain je ne sais quoi of space Nazis that you just don't get anymore.
Helldivers too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, a different kind of space Nazi, I guess.
Yeah.
But okay, is that 5 games? Is that everyone's?
That's all 5.
Now we're into
Honorable
the creme of the
mentions?
creme.
All right, I say we just get into it. With
And we're gonna
number-
do one game and then go to the next person, right?
Yeah, so
That's
we're
how
all
it's gonna
going
go
to
from
do
there.
our number 10, then 9,
Yeah.
then 8, then
Yeah.
so on
Just
and so
making
forth.
sure, because I thought that was how we were gonna do honorable mentions, and then we sped run it. I just wanted to make
Yeah.
sure.
I mean, those ones we don't have much to talk about. They
So
are
who
honorable
wants to kick things off here?
I could.
Yeah, Mike, you want to kick us off?
So this was a hard one to put on the list because I love both games in this series. But recency bias got me. I put Dishonored 2 as my number 10 game.
Yeah.
It is a masterclass in Arcane's Dishonored franchise. It nails its aesthetics, it nails its gameplay, it does everything Dishonored 1 did, but better. And honestly, it's a shame I didn't put Prey on this. Oh my god, I just thought about it as I was thinking about Dishonored
Yes.
2.
But I mean, Dishonored 2 is kind of a
It's a good
praise-
representative
pick
of
and
the
spirit,
genre.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an immersive sim, and I always have said I love immersive sims, and I will tell you there are no more immersive sims. Wait, there's like one more immersive sim on this list, but Dishonored 2 was the most recent one I fully played through, and I
Yeah.
enjoyed every second of it. I was playing a non-lethal run through, I think.
That's the best. Yeah.
Non-lethal, pretty much full stealth. I failed a little bit, but I had a lot of fun. It gave me a lot of non-lethal options. It didn't feel like I was shoehorned into being lethal at any point. And it's a shame that franchise will never be touched again because Arcane's gonna get shuttered.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It's a
sucks.
shame. All of these are franchises that'll never get another game. Well,
Yeah.
most of them.
That's
Dishonored
It's a shame.
Dishonored is kind of a tragedy too, because like 1 and 2 came out and everyone who
sell.
played them loved them. Like they got rave reviews, but like they just
Yeah.
didn't sell.
They didn't
Like,
sell.
people
Neither
weren't
did
buying
Prey. People didn't like immersive sims back in that
Well,
time.
I don't
but
I don't know
I
if
don't think
people
that's
just
it.
didn't like him. I think it was just not it
wasn't
wasn't
the-
mainstream.
yeah,
Like
well,
it was like immersive sims are a very particular kind of game, and I think a lot more people would like them if they tried them. It's just that's
it's a
typically
lot
when
of
you have a
impetus.
shooter, like the popular shooters are all kind of military
They're simple.
shooters,
Yeah.
you know. But yeah, so
And
Dishonored
inherently,
fell victim kind of to that, I think.
this is gonna sound pompous and poised or whatever, but inherently, people don't want to play games that make them think super hard unless you're a certain kind of like person.
I mean, like,
People
but that's
just wanna boot
also
up the game and go, which is fine.
that's totally fine. Yeah, some
Yeah.
people just want to blow off steam or whatever.
But immersive sims are games for people that wanna just do more than shoot. They want to solve problems while they shoot.
right.
Hmm.
And there's just not a market for those as much anymore as there used to be.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, I still think there's a way for one of these to break through to the mainstream. I just think it's a
It
matter
can't
of
be
time.
from a AAA studio there. That's just too much of an investment for a studio to dive into something that might not even sell.
But what we
Hmm.
need is we need like what Nintendo did with Pikmin for RTS. I feel like we need for immersive sims. Like we need a baby's first immersive sim. I think the closest thing to that is like Indiana Jones. Like it doesn't
Yeah.
really exist yet. But
Because, like,
Yeah.
I know they're nothing alike, but in terms of obscurity, like roguelikes have become more mainstream.
yeah,
Metroidvanias have become more mainstream. I think
BioShock-
something similar could happen
There
to
was-
immersive sims.
The part is there was a renaissance around this time for immersive sims that were
is BioShock
super
really an
popular.
immersive sim though?
It is a spiritual successor to System Shock.
It
the
is.
first code in it is
It's 0451. Yeah.
0451.
It just doesn't feel as immersive to me.
It's I don't think it's as immersive
first
simmy
game's
as something
more
like
immersive than
Prey, but
it
yeah,
leaned more onto the other elements of System Shock, but it did have that environmental interaction element and problem solving with your powers that immersive sims did have.
That's true.
I think we were just spoiled by Prey, which was the peak of the genre.
Prey goes so hard.
It's so good. I'm mad that I didn't put it here.
I know. I'm mad that
But
you didn't put it here.
I'm so mad. I just thought about it. It didn't cross my mind because I talk so much good about Prey.
Let's start the episode over.
Yeah, but
For the third time.
Dishonored's one of those series that really kicked me into immersive sims, and I can't not give it credit.
Yeah, for sure.
all right, awesome number 10. I can go next Connor.
Okay.
That's you. My number 10 is Slay the Spire.
Wow, I would not have expected it to
Yeah,
be this
wow.
low for you. That's
low. I don't know. It's tough.
I
Right?
know
Like
it's still
this,
a top 10. Yeah, that's what's so hard about
like
this.
all these games are like 10 out of 10s to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, Slay the Spire, especially recently, like it's just a game that I can't put down if I start playing it. It's a game that's actively ruined sleep for me, and when a game does that, I know that it's really good in my book.
Yeah.
It's just a masterclass of design. It's just one of the best designed games I've ever played. And it's a game where I can watch people play at such a high level, watch, 50, 100 different YouTube videos that are all completely different in how they tackle the problems the Spire throws at them. And I just love that. It just feels like a game that keeps on giving. And a lot of roguelikes are like that, but I don't think any roguelike I've played has the versatility and the depth of something like Slay the Spire. I know Connor's thinking of Noita right now, but
Yeah.
which is probably on his
That
list.
was such an insane call, too, because that was exactly what I
Yeah.
was thinking.
God.
But yeah, Slay the Spire, I'm very excited for the sequel. I'm almost kind of like, there's a little bit of trepidation there because I feel like they struck gold.
They might
Like,
Kerbal Space Program to it. Yeah.
Can lightning strike in the same place twice? Like,
Yeah.
obviously the minds behind the game are brilliant, but like, there's something just so special about Slay the Spire, and I'm very
I'm gonna
curious
say
to
it.
see if they can recapture that.
I think they can.
Yeah.
As like a non like huge Slay the Spire fan, I believe in that team. I think they can do it again.
Yeah.
I played a bunch of Slay the Spire, but
I've played 8 minutes of Slay the
yeah, I
Spire.
wouldn't have
I've
put it
played
on my-
dozens and dozens of hours. And that's nothing to say of like, I haven't even touched the mods for this game. There are mods that are so good for this game. They're basically like expansion packs with new
Yeah.
characters, with fully fleshed out decks and
That's so
and
cool.
and relics and mechanics that just slot seamlessly into the game. So it really is the game that just keeps on giving. Like, if you were on a desert island and you could take Slay the Spire plus all of its mods with you,
Yeah.
you're never gonna run out of
Never run out
game
of
to
stuff
play,
to do.
basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's my number 10, Slay the Spire. And like, I can say this for everything on this list. I wanted to put it higher, but like, how do I do that? I don't know. Maybe on a different day it's higher.
See, that's funny. My number 10 is The Beginner's Guide, which is not. This one was one I kind of had to fight to get in the top 10 because I don't know if I necessarily think it's better than some of my honorable mentions. But The Beginner's Guide is a walking simulator, which I know there's some heat on that genre, but it tells a really cool story coming from Davey Wreden, one of the developers of the Stanley Parable, talking about someone named Coda's games and analyzing them for you. And you've played this, right, Ahmed?
I have not.
Oh, you need to play it. It's like a 2-hour game. So what I love about this game,
I have
Is
played
that
the
it-
Stanley Parable.
it's a big games as art piece. It's kind of a response to, it is an artist's response to the critical response of the Stanley Parable, but you don't really need to know all that to enjoy the game. Arguably, it's more enjoyable if you don't know that, but he analyzes these games for you. And what I really, really love about this game is if I have a friend or I'm seeing someone who doesn't get what I love about video games so much, The Beginner's Guide is like the length of a movie, and you can walk away from The Beginner's Guide with a significant piece of why I love games. That narrative just it talks from a developer's perspective, but you as a member of the audience are really it's mechanically very simple. It's just a really, really beautiful game. I would recommend it to anybody. I hope it runs well on modern stuff because I don't think it's gotten an update in a long time. And it came out like early 2010s, I think. So I'm not actually sure what kind of state it's in, but obviously it's my number 10 best game. I really love The Beginner's Guide.
I definitely love the shout of like games that you can bite-sized games that you can show people to introduce them to the genre.
Yeah.
Like, I'm always
To the
kind of on the
medium,
hunt.
yeah.
Yeah, to the medium even.
Yeah.
I'm always kind of on the search for games like that, and I'm glad to hear that this is one of them.
Yeah. Highly recommend. Have you played it, Mike? You probably
No,
not.
I
You hate this
actually have
stuff.
not. No,
Yeah,
I
you would hate
really
it.
am
You,
not a
you hate
big-
walking simulators.
Yeah, I'm not really
Yeah.
big into walking simulators.
Good
But
game though.
All right,
for passing
I guess
it back to you,
that's
Mike.
number 10.
Yeah, number 10.
I can start off number 9.
Okay,
We
yeah,
can
we can do that.
keep it varied. My number 9 is Journey. So
good
Journey was a game that originally launched on PS3. I think it's available everywhere now. But it's a very, like you said, Connor, it's a 1.5, 2-hour game, very short.
Yes, I love this
Very
game.
simple game with a very simple objective. You awaken as this cloaked figure in a desert. You see this mountain with a light on top of it in the distance, and that's it, right? Like the implication is go to the top of the mountain. So that's what the whole game is. And it says so much with so little. There's no dialogue in the game. There isn't sort of a multiplayer element to this game. It's not asynchronous. I was going to say asynchronous, but no, it's not. It's an actual person can join you on the journey up the mountain, and you can't communicate, right? You don't know who they are. You can't talk to each other. The only thing you can do is kind of like gesture in the game, like and like little chirp
like
at each other.
singing,
There's like
yeah.
little chirps, right? And you can use that to kind of convey emotion, right? Like little chirps if you're happy, or like big chirps if you're like, hey, trying to get their attention. And with that simplified communication, something really beautiful happens. I think those design decisions lead to something very emotional being uncovered in a game like this. Because at the end of the day, you can't communicate, but you can. Like, you can fully understand what your partner is saying, like what they intend to do, just by studying the body language of their character, which is kind of a remarkable thing. And at the end of it, like, you're left with this extremely personal journey that can't be replicated, right? Like, I was helped by this person up the mountain. I will never know who they are, their name. At the end of the game, it does show you, I think, their name.
Yeah,
like their
gamer
username
tag,
or whatever.
yeah.
But while you're doing it, like, it's just a total stranger. And this could potentially not even happen, by the way. Like, you could play through this whole thing solo. No one
Especially now,
could
if
show
nobody's
up.
playing.
Yeah, no one's playing now. But especially, so it's more of a time capsule even in that sense. But like, playing it back then when it came out with someone as you go up the mountain, it felt like a spiritual thing, which is a little silly to say, but like, it got me extremely emotional, right? Like, this game that has no characters, no dialogue, nothing, right?
Yeah.
Conveying this very simple story about this little cloaked character scaling a mountain.
I'm glad you called it a time capsule, because it really is that. Like, it came out at a time when very few artsy games like this were coming out, and even fewer were finding a wide audience that Journey found. It was very strange at the time, and I didn't get to play it until many years later, and I think that's a shame. I just didn't have any money at the time.
Well, and I think, to your point, it showed a lot of people at that time, because indie
Yes.
games weren't really. It's kind of funny, right? Like, indie games are mainstream now, but
Yeah.
they really weren't before,
They were
right?
kind of
Like,
What year did
obscure
this
back
come out?
then.
Do you have that Top of the Dome?
I think it is 2011, 2010,
Okay, yeah.
maybe.
That was like the indie revolution was 2011. That was when you get stuff like Braid and Spelunky and a bunch of that stuff all coming out around the same time.
Yeah, so Journey comes out, and it really shows people that, hey, look at what can be done with no dialogue, no story, just gameplay and thoughtful design. Like, look at what can be done with so little. Granted, the music in that game carried it a lot too.
Very
One of the
good,
most
yeah.
beautiful scores I've ever heard.
Just visually gorgeous too. And I hate deserts. And this
Yeah,
game has
for
a
you
lot
to
of
say
desert
that,
in it.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
but this game works.
Yeah. And especially, right, like that final stretch where you're climbing the mountain, the music that plays, like, even thinking about it now, I'm like getting choked.
There's like an
up, but,
emotional journey in this
it's-
too.
it's-
Like, I don't want to spoil it.
Yeah,
but
yeah, exactly, right? Like, there's nothing really to spoil, but like talking about the experience kind of spoils it.
There's
right?
moments,
Like,
there's feelings you're gonna feel playing
Yeah,
this game, and I want
the
you to
feelings
feel
are
them
spoilers, which is a
Yeah.
wild thing to say. But like, yeah, like at the end of the game, you just feel this sense of catharsis, and it's just an incredible thing. And all of this happened in the span of less than 2 hours. Like, it's just, I really think that everyone who plays video games should give Journey a shot, because, like, it really is something so powerful that can change your perspective on what a game can be in less than 2 hours. All right, that's my piece on Journey.
I guess I'll go next.
Yeah.
My next game is Noita, the best
Wow.
roguelike ever made.
Okay.
Who'd have thunk?
The Noita is have either of you guys played Noita? I forget.
I have. I've played a little bit of it.
Okay.
I have not still.
Okay, yeah, you got to check it out, Ammon.
I know.
I don't think you'll like it more than Slay the Spire necessarily, but Noita is also very difficult to talk about without getting into spoilers, because a lot of what I like about it is spoilery. But Noita is a roguelike where you play as a Noita, which is, I think, Finnish for witch, and it is I have to talk about the engine to talk about why this game is so good. It's in something called the Falling Everything engine, because every pixel on the screen is simulated and has gravity and can, like, be alchemically affected by potions and things like that. Like, you can get hit by a single pixel of a potion and it can end a run in this game sometimes. And it also has a system, your main system of attack are these wands, and in between levels, you have the opportunity to customize your wands, and the order you, like, the variety of spells you have is huge. There are hundreds of them, and the order you put them on the wand can make significant differences with how they interact with each other. It's a really, really deep system that allows a ton of player expression, and you just feel like a genius. Like, you can get some spells that are very, very bad on their own, but figure out the right order to put them in, and you have a wand that clears the game very easily sometimes. You can know some certain combinations. Sometimes you don't even use a wand. Sometimes you can find a special item that you happen to know a quirk of it that helps you clear an area, so you can be on a super underpowered run, but you can save it by being kind of pacifist for a while. And what really puts this game on the list to me, I mean, all those systems, and you have a great game, but the reason Noita is so special is something I can't even really talk about, but it's everything else. It's the breadth of this world. Like, one of the first things you see in Noita is you don't actually spawn in a level. You spawn outside of the cave, and you are encouraged to walk into the cave, but you're curious what might happen if you do not. And there are things to find. And there are several points where you think there's nothing left to find here, and you're wrong. There is more to find. There are still unsolved mysteries in Noita. We don't know everything that's in this game yet. So it just keeps going deeper and deeper. It's a real thinking man's roguelike in that way. But it doesn't have to be. It can also just be a really fun action game that you like. You can have a run in Noita. I can have a run in Noita that I beat in 40 minutes. I can have a run in Noita that is 16 hours long, and I still have not accomplished whatever goal I set for myself.
See, everything you're saying sounds very appealing to me. I just, like, why didn't this blow up in similar ways that,
it's
like,
really,
other
really
popular
hard.
roguelikes did?
Because it's
Northernlion refuses to play it.
Yeah, Northernlion. Yeah, that's
That-
unironically probably a pretty good
not-
reason. Yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't help. But another is just that it is crushingly, crushingly difficult. You will lose so many runs of Noita to what feels like very unfair situations that, like, with a ton of game knowledge, become fair. But
I lost a run in Noita because I walked the wrong direction. 1 pixel, and suddenly everything around me exploded. I froze to death, exploded into pieces, and I did not know how I died.
there are spells that you can pick up that have no description. They do not, or I think they do have a description, but the description is not helpful. It doesn't tell you what they do, and if you cast them, you die immediately, and you don't, like, you don't,
I can see
you
how
won't
that'd
necessarily.
be kind of frustrating, but,
Yeah,
like,
you
part
have
of the
to-
learning experience.
There are ways to avoid. There are ways to cast a spell such that it cannot kill you, but if you don't have that game knowledge, you're gonna die the first time you get that spell probably. And it's you will die to your own wands just as often as you die to the enemies. It is very crushingly difficult. Even you can get to the point in an end game where you feel unkillable, like on one of the, like, the runs in a roguelike where everything goes
Yeah.
right, your build is unstoppable, and then there's a potion called Polymorph, and polymorph turns you into a sheep with 1 HP. So if you get a single drop of polymorph on you and you don't have one of the game's protections against it, then you are immediately insanely vulnerable, and like any enemy could kill you, any bit of lava could kill you, any moving piece of geometry could accidentally do 1 HP and kill you. So, and I think that turns a lot of people off, but I love that. I think that's so cool.
Yeah.
And getting a god run going in Noita just feels like nothing else. There's no other game that feels like it. That said, once you are like an unkillable god, sometimes those like 16-hour runs can feel they can drag a little.
16 hours. Like that's
There's just like, there's
That's
puzzles
crazy.
to solve. There's complicated things to do that are interesting while you're doing them, but there is like some busy work. And granted, there are things you can do that like break the game and make you like travel like insanely fast so that this is faster and stuff. But I don't know. I don't even mind, like, I say it gets a little monotonous, but really, I love those. I've never had a run in Noita that I didn't enjoy.
I got to
And
check
it took
out.
me, I won my 100th run in Noita, and I took a picture of it and put a caption on it that says, "No game beats me 100 times." I think that covers Noita for me. I'll pass it on to Mike.
Oh, this is gonna surprise nobody, but number 9 for me is Warframe.
I'm surprised
No
it's so low.
Surprised.
Yeah.
Well, I couldn't have put it at the top because that
That's
would be
fair.
unfair. It's a live service game. It keeps getting more
Yeah.
content.
Yeah.
I can't put it that high.
But how many, if you had to guess, how many episodes of this show have you talked about Warframe in?
Easily double digits. Easily.
I was going to say 50.
Yeah, probably a fourth of them.
A fourth of this podcast I have talked about Warframe. Yeah, I just keep coming back to it. I can't stay away for long.
You love that game.
As funny as I thought it would be to put League of Legends on this list, I don't like that game anymore. I hate it, actually. So it would have never been on this list, but Warframe made it. It's kind of become one of those games that it's like a comfort game now.
Yeah.
I go back, see what's new, grind it out a little bit, and then put it down for a little bit and wait for new content.
It's good to
And
have.
it's super nice to have. Like, I know they're never going to put out a bad update. It's been straight good updates for 2-3 years now. So
I
don't
for
have
similar
much to
reasons,
say.
I thought about, obviously Warframe is a lot more successful than Destiny in terms of its updates, but like I thought about putting Destiny on my list because for a long time, like I'm talking 4 or 5 years plus,
Destiny 2
like-
or 1?
the original, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, well, I
interesting,
don't know.
though.
I kind of think of it all in one bucket, but if I had to pick one, I'd probably pick the first one because,
Really? I think of 2 as being vastly superior to the original.
well, it's because of the memories, right? Like most of my friends played it when Destiny 1 was a thing. So I did think about, not to steal your thunder too much, but I was just like, for similar reasons of like having that comfort game always there. For years, I had that in Destiny, so I thought about putting it on the list, but it didn't make it.
Yeah.
As somebody who
I-
doesn't play either that much, Destiny and Warframe are like in the same drawer in my
I-
brain.
Yeah,
I've
they-
talked about Warframe
fair,
on the
yeah.
show a dozen or
Yeah.
more times.
Yeah, you like that game.
Yeah, there's not much I can say about it in this episode that I haven't talked about like 150 times.
We got a backlog for that.
Yeah, there's a strong backlog of my thoughts on Warframe, and I've touched every single bit of that game on this podcast.
And I guess just to take the comparison a little further, look at Warframe. It's thriving right now. It's kind of at its peak.
Yeah, how
And
is that new update?
Comparatively, if you
1999 update? Oh, it's getting another update that adds more content, I think, next month.
Insanely based.
So
but like comparing it to Destiny, right? Like they're kind of at their lowest right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
So they
Warframe
figured
keeps
something
winning.
out. Yeah.
they literally put Rebecca Ford in charge of the game, and it's been straight bangers since then. Which I didn't expect because she was just a community manager beforehand.
But like a community manager understands what people want from the
Yeah.
game.
Yeah,
So-
true.
She went from community manager straight to game director of the entire game, and it's been straight good updates since then.
Was she only the community manager? Because
Yeah.
sometimes they're dual
She
role.
was I think a community manager or like head of community relations or something similar to that. But
Okay.
she also did the Lotus's VA work. So
Because I know on Satisfactory, the community manager was also just a developer on the team.
Yeah.
It was a dual role situation.
don't know.
I'm
Don't
just
quote me on
curious.
anything.
Like
Yeah.
it,
She
yeah.
might have been.
It's not
But-
surprising
No,
that you
I
don't
mean,
have
good
that
for
on.
her
They-
though. Like she
Yeah.
she
Steve
clearly knows
Sinclair,
what she's doing.
She's doing a good
Steve
job,
Sinclair
yeah.
got sent to go work on Soulframe,
What's
which
that?
is their
Oh.
other game.
Soulframe,
coming up-
Warframe.
Yep, they're releasing another Frame game,
Say that.
but I
again?
don't think this
Frame
one's going to
type
be
game.
live service. I don't know. I've only seen a little bit about it, and it's more focused on melee combat than gun.
Okay. I kind of wanted that from Warframe, a little more melee.
Yeah.
But to be fair, they might have it now. I last played Warframe in 2014.
Oh yeah, there's so many mechanics. The game has everything in it now. You want to fly
Yeah.
a spaceship? It's in the game. You want to ride
Wait,
a
is it-
motorcycle through a city? In the game.
Is that right? Is Warframe over 11 years old? Or did I
Yeah.
just get the day
We're
wrong?
just
Like
old.
11, 12 years old.
Yeah.
I'm wasting
Everything
away.
is in Warframe now. There's a little bit of content for everyone. And that's reaching that scale on a game is kind of a big deal. It's like Fortnite before Fortnite, but you're not going to see Master Chief in it.
Question. If I would pick
Fortnite
up
without the
Warframe,
dances. Sorry, go ahead.
how's the onboarding? Like if I picked it up right now, could we play together or would the level gap be an issue?
It would not be an issue.
That's
Like all that old content is still content that I have to grind to get materials.
Maybe we'll do like a game talk stream sometime.
Like Warframe's
in.
one of those games that old players are still going to be playing old content
Yeah.
because they need parts and resources from that.
That's
Take notes, Bungie. This
Yeah.
is
Mhm.
this
That's-
is what
that
we
was
wanted from Destiny.
such a huge issue for Destiny was that, well, especially the issue with that. Well, I don't know. I'm not going to complain about Destiny again. I've done it enough.
Yeah.
we're talking about Warframe.
Like,
right.
like the fact that you can still engage with this old content. There's so much content that like new players would see that I haven't even touched.
Really?
Yeah, I haven't touched some of the. I haven't really ground out all of the first couple open world zones, which
It's
Which
crazy.
players get access to pretty much as soon as they get into the game.
The number of
I
hours
haven't
you have in
touched
this
those.
game for there to be content you haven't done.
Yeah, there's so many frames I haven't gotten,
Yeah.
but I've gotten like their prime variants, but I haven't gotten the base form because that grind is just
Good
it's
for
there.
them.
It's a lot. I have probably another 1,000 hours of content left, and I have 1,000 hours in the game.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. That's crazy.
Like it's a wall, but it's a wall that's going to continue getting higher.
All right. I think that's good for 9,
Number
right?
9. Yep.
9. Let's move on to number 8.
I guess I'll go first this time, right?
Sure.
Number 8. Surprising nobody, I think. Monster Hunter World.
Yeah, I saw
The
that coming.
hardest. I knew I
Well,
had to have
the only question is this the only Monster Hunter game?
This
on
is the
list?
only Monster Hunter. I was only going to put one, and I really, really struggled to choose one, but especially because Wilds comes out in 2 days, and I think it is probably going to be better than World. But choosing between this and 4U was tricky. But the modernization of Monster Hunter World, I just think it's a better first game in the series for anybody to pick up. I don't know. I just needed franchise representation. Y'all made me pick
Yeah.
one. I wanted to just say Monster Hunter. But
Yeah.
it was tough. But this game, just a rundown. If you haven't heard one of the like 10 episodes I talked about it in, it's a game where you play as a monster hunter in the Hunter's Guild. You choose one of 14 weapons, and you go out and you hunt giant monsters, big lizards mostly in Monster Hunter World, and you do it for the Hunter's Guild. And in between quests, you are taking the materials you gather from those monsters and crafting weapons and armor for yourself and your feline companion, your Palico, who
Kill
helps you fight in
creatures,
battle.
get and wear their skin.
Yeah, and that's most of the game. The story's terrible in World, really just truly awful, but the gameplay is just probably the best third-person action combat of any game. Maybe not Devil May Cry. I could see an argument for Devil May Cry beating it, but just
Capcom versus Capcom.
yeah, I know they're just the masters of third-person combat, in my opinion. Just a really. Just every weapon in this feels like a different game, almost. It,
And I can back that up just based off the beta I played for Wilds. The how deep the mechanics run for each weapon is just it's mind-boggling.
and that's not even to think of the out-of-combat mechanics. Like, all the armor has skills on it, so you have to choose your armor based on what skills you want. And then there are other skills you get based on what food you eat at the canteen before you go into your hunt. And then there's the items you have in your pouch. Some of the items give you a buff just because you have them in your pouch. Some of them are items you need to eat. They're consumables that give you boosts. Do you want to trap the monster instead of killing it? That's an option. And the bonuses you get, the items you get, the rates and the pool of items is different for a capture from a kill. So there's like a choice there. Typically in Monster Hunter World specifically, you want to capture. The items are typically just better, and you can do that, it takes less time. Just really, it's just a combat loop that I could play for hundreds of hours without getting bored. There's just so much depth to it.
It is curious to me, like, one thing, as someone who's coming in new for Monster Hunter, is that how do people, I guess, not tire of hunting the same monster over and over again? Like, obviously, there's different builds and different weapons, but, like, you'd think that after hundreds of hours, you'd have your fill, but it seems like Monster Hunter fans,
Well,
they don't get their fill. Yeah.
Monster Hunter World has, I think, 70 monsters to hunt in it, if you have the DLC. So that's a pretty big variety of monsters. Plus, when you do repeat hunts later in the game, they typically have a different moveset. They'll be stronger. But it also is just... I want to say this without, like, dunking on another game, but monsters in Monster Hunter have a moveset that can reasonably fill a 10 to 30 minute hunt, which introduces opportunities for variety within a battle that you wouldn't necessarily see in, like, an Elden Ring, which is going to have a tighter like 5-minute boss fight probably. I don't actually know how long those fights take, but 5 minutes feels right. That's a tighter fight that, like, you're going to see everything that boss can do every time you fight it, because you're probably only going to fight it once, whereas the monsters in Monster Hunter are designed to have variety in the fight. There's going to be different situations you find yourself in. Plus, there's so many of them. I do think that's the problem with in-game Monster Hunter, is making sure you're not fighting the same 4 or 5 monsters over and over again. You need to find a way to have the early game monsters relevant again at the end, and that's something they struggle with a little bit. I don't have 1,000 hours in a Monster Hunter game. I have hundreds of hours in Monster Hunter games. I've never...
I mean, that's still, like, that's an absurd amount of time.
Yeah. I suspect I'm going to put 100 hours into Wild before the DLC drops next year. That's my prediction. It might be more. We'll find out. I'm really looking forward to that, though.
All right. No surprises yet so far from you, Connor.
No. I don't know that there will be any.
There don't have to be. I'm just remarking. No surprises yet.
Yeah, I don't think I've been so surprised. Put surprises out either.
So I'll pass it.
Do you want to take the next one, Mike?
Yeah, I'll take the next one. Ahmed mentioned this earlier, and I did mention I was going to put it on the list. I completely forgot about Oblivion and what it had done to me as a person.
You played it pretty recently too, didn't you? Like within the last year.
Yeah, I've kind of dove in and out of it, but it's one of those games that is the longer we go with more Bethesda games, the more I appreciate it, and the better it gets.
The writing. So good.
Everything about Oblivion, minus what they tried with the NPC system, but
yeah.
I mean, if they just would have iterated on it and subsequent games, it probably would have been better, but they completely abandoned it because people made fun of it.
The persuasion minigame is dumb.
Yeah, but the world's living. NPCs would walk around and just do stuff. They had schedules. They had lives. At that time period, that was a huge deal. It's still a huge deal for a game to do that today, because not a lot of RPGs do that. They just prefer to stick NPCs on one spot and make them kind of set dressing. I know Avowed.
Yeah. Avowed, they're just in one spot. I think it's its greatest failure, is that the world doesn't feel very alive.
Kingdom Come Deliverance did it. Everyone has schedules. Everyone walks around.
It's more common now.
Yeah. It's slowly getting more common, but that is one part of making a game feel just that much more immersive, is walking into a town and seeing it lively.
Oblivion, I think this is going to be Oblivion was my first Elder Scrolls, so it's the one I feel this about. But Oblivion sits in the sweet spot of the old school complicated RPG, but enough of the newer, more modern features that I can stand to play it. Morrowind is so hard to go back and play.
Morrowind is so hard to go back and play.
But I have played a good bit of it, and it's fine. But Oblivion is just...
Oblivion has its flaws. Like, don't get me wrong, it's janky. It has the weirdest leveling curves in any Bethesda game.
Yeah.
The NPCs are almost comically like funny to watch them interact with each other.
But it really
But-
felt like you were just getting sucked into a world.
Yeah,
I just felt that
Step
so
out of-
strongly.
yeah,
I mean, it felt like you
step
could do
out of that
anything.
sewer,
Yeah.
and it's just like, wow, this is a world. I am
Graphics were
in
good at the time
Cyrodiil.
too.
It's still good. They're not
They're-
as bad. As,
Other than the other
yeah.
than the human
No, but
beings.
like at the time, like I just like
the
it was
time,
a
it was
combination of
beautiful.
things because like I was a kid too, but like at the time I saw this it was just like
like
this
the
is what
character
the
designs are its
future
weakest
is.
part, but its environments still pretty. You don't really need to do much to step up the beauty of Oblivion's trees and environments.
Yeah, and it was really a game. My gaming tendencies were different back then, but the side content in Oblivion is
Yeah.
just. I mean, it's like
Like
it's better than the main story. It's so
like
good.
the Dark Brotherhood quest line.
The Thieves
really
Guild.
So good.
The Thieves Guild.
Yeah,
You
Thieves
steal
Guild
an
is so
Elder,
fun.
like
Loved
You
it.
steal an
Skyrim-
Elder Scroll.
yeah.
You get the boots of Spring Hill Jack. Like
Skyrim
Oh, yeah.
wishes it had some of the side content that Oblivion did.
yeah,
Because
I remember back in the
Skyrim-
day, like I remember playing Skyrim and being like disappointed with the Dark Brotherhood
Yeah.
quest line and the Thieves Guild quest
Skyrim-
line.
didn't put you in a building with 6 other NPCs and told you, hey, you get a bonus if they don't know you're the killer.
yeah.
And it gave you the option to make them all kill each other out
That's
of
good.
paranoia and fear. That is something that Skyrim never did.
Yeah.
The Fighters Guild quest line, where you are there for multiple hours, whereas the Companions quest line, you kind of get to the meat of it instantly.
Is the Fighters Guild just the arena in?
No. There's
Okay.
the Arena quest line and the
Okay,
Fighters
so they're
Guild quest
separate.
line. The
been
Fighters
a
Guild
very
quest
long
line
time.
has you, if I remember correctly, has you infiltrate this rival company, do drugs out of a tree, and slaughter an entire village because they look like goblins.
It'd
then-
be.
And then you come out of it, you go back to that village because the master of the Fighters Guild sends you out there, and you realize that those weren't goblins that you just killed. Those were innocent civilians.
Oh,
Yeah, you just committed a war crime.
I didn't do that one.
Yeah, the Fighters Guild quest line it's kind of nutty.
Oblivion
So
also
you-
has one of the best DLC of all time.
Yeah. Shivering Isles, that
Oh, I meant the horse
scale-
armor.
Yeah, horse armor too. Shivering Isles, massive. This
Shivering Isles
whole
is really good.
another world introducing one of the franchise's most beloved characters.
Yeah.
It
The wa-
did so much good. It did
Yeah.
so much great that its slight flaws and how jank it is they're just there. You don't.
But the
you don't
jank
care.
in that era
It was fine.
contributed to its charm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Not
it's
so much
endearing.
in 2025, but like back then, like it definitely it was fine.
You can give it slack because it was pushing boundaries for what was possible with those those computers, those technologies.
Something I loved about Oblivion was that or I don't know if everybody did this, but I jumped everywhere I went because I
Yeah.
wanted to trade my acrobatic stat.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it
Just
was
constant jumping.
it's timeless. I want to play it again. I need to play it
It's-
again, but I am
it's making
waiting
me
on
wanna
that
play it.
remake. Yeah,
That remake's gonna hit so
that
hard,
remake's
man.
gonna hit so hard. I'm gonna fall in love with Cyrodiil all over again.
Wonderfully put. So I'll go next, right? You haven't done 8 yet, right?
I
Connor.
have done 8.
Oh, is this the last 8?
Yeah,
I think
it's
you're the
eight.
last 8.
Okay, what was your 8 again, Connor?
My 8 was Monster Hunter World.
Yeah. Okay, so I am the last 8. So my number 8 is Mass Effect 2. I was struggling where to. I bet Mike's gonna bring it
No,
up
I
later.
didn't. I didn't put this on. I didn't put 2 on my
Spoilers?
list. Actually,
Oh, okay, yeah.
no spoilers. That
No
2
spoilers.
was not on my list.
Yeah, so I had to put this game somewhere on this list. Mass Effect 2 was this union of everything I was obsessed with at that age. It was like a grand sprawling RPG. It was a sci-fi epic. It carried over your choices from the previous game in a way that no other game really did. It
Still hasn't really been done.
Yeah, it's
again.
still not really a thing. And plus, and I think this is key, when Mass Effect 2 came out and continued the story from the first game and ended in that way, the hype and potential for 3 was at ludicrous
I
levels.
remember being excited for 3.
3 was one of the most hyped games ever because of what Mass Effect 2 did. And I think
Yeah.
that contributes to why I think Mass Effect 2 is an incredible game as well. Obviously, a lot of people were disappointed with 3 when it eventually came out, but at that time when Mass Effect 2 came out, it was everything. And it was setting up this insane storyline with impossible odds against the Reaper.
Yeah. 2 did everything. Well, 2 was the peak of the Mass Effect series, which objectively makes it the best one. I don't know what I'm saying here.
R.I.P. Mass Effect series.
But
yeah, I know,
it
right?
might be dead. BioWare might kill
It's
it.
probably dead.
I didn't put it on my list because there's another Mass Effect game that is much more substantial to me personally.
I figured, yeah. That makes sense.
2, it was a very hard choice not to put 2 on this list.
I
because
wanted this
2
game.
Yeah. Gameplay wise, it had some of the best gameplay other than 3. 3 kind of stepped up the
3's
game a little
gameplay was
bit.
really good.
Yeah.
But the whole structure of 2, with everything leading to the suicide mission at the end and all the things that can happen, the whole game builds to that climax. And that climax, it actually pays off, right? Depending on what you did, how well you prepared, these people that you spent the last few dozen hours with could bite it and not be in Mass Effect 3 at all.
There was this pressure 3/4 of the way. I don't know if we want to spoil Mass Effect 2.
I know I'm going to play it someday.
Yeah.
Wait, yeah, we'll keep it vague.
Yeah, keep it vague. I'll forget.
After everyone gets abducted off your ship late in the game, instead of doing what most RPGs do and not give you a time limit and just say, yeah, you got to go save them, this game had a time limit. You could lose most of the crew on that ship if you didn't immediately do maybe 1 or 2 missions and go finish the game.
That's crazy.
Because, so many games have this thing oh, this catastrophic thing just happened. Oh, but you can, fart around for the next 12 hours.
I hate that.
Fixing Granny's pot or whatever.
It would literally change.
You have to move.
Fixing Granny's pot.
I was
literally cooking pot.
I know. And yeah, obviously cooking pot is such a weird thing.
That was kind of a Witcher 3 reference. That's
really?
A quest near the beginning. Right?
That's
you have to
so
fix,
funny.
This old lady's pan or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It actually puts stakes there, and there's consequences for if you don't just wrap up maybe 1 or 2 loose ends and go.
Yeah, I love it because
fart around long enough, the game will actively show you screwed up. Someone's dead.
Yeah.
People are dead.
Yeah, it's very few games have the stones to do that, but Mass Effect 2 did, and they didn't reverse it, right? People who died in 2 were dead in 3.
You could walk out of 2 with every single person in your squad dead.
You can, but that's hard to do.
It's very hard
I feel
to
like you have to be trying to do that, but
you have to not engage with any side content for everyone to die.
Oh, sounds like Connor might do it then.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
if you play just the main story,
people are gonna die. I'm a real human being who has real time on this earth. That matters to me.
But the side content's worth it though. That's the best part is all those loyalty missions, all those little side missions. They're worth it. They're engaging stories.
The characters are so good, man. There's no other game. Baldur's Gate 3 and Dragon Age Origins are the only other 2 I can think of where the characters engross me so much where I would just spend hours talking to them, learning more about them. Yeah. I was happy to do those loyalty missions. They were fascinating characters with really good backstories. Most of them, right? Some of them were better than others.
But I can't explain the desire for me that if these characters were real, how many beers I'd have with Garrus Vakarian.
Garrus is great.
I just want to take him to a bar and get sloshed, you know?
Is Garrus it had to be me? Someone else might have gotten it wrong. Is that him?
No, Garrus Vakarian is the Turian that's in all 3 games.
Okay.
The Lizard Man, yeah. He's such
a bro.
Yeah, he's such a bro.
Yeah, he's such a
I just want to go take him to a bar and get sloshed, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, Garrus is great. There's just so many great Mass Effect characters. Liara is great.
I care for all of these characters.
And you can sleep with them, right?
Yeah, you can sleep with all
most of them,
technically. Depending on your gender, because it was a game that was released.
That's true. Yeah,
a decade and a half ago.
There's got to be mods for that.
There is kind of, but there's no text for it because it wasn't in the game.
But-
them just having a lesbian option was
that was
quite a
that was
step in the right
that
direction.
was
they did.
controversial at the
That's crazy.
time.
Yeah.
Actually,
Yeah.
yeah, I remember. But like, yeah. So this, I can't stress enough. Like, this game does the build up to the climax and executing the climax. It does that perfectly, right? Like
Yeah.
the stakes are all there. The music that's thundering, like that suicide mission music, I still listen to that. That's like in my Spotify playlists. Like, it's just perfect, man. And
It's a perfect game. Well,
I strongly feel that it is as close to perfect as a
Yeah.
game can get. Like, they really nailed it with Mass Effect 2. And it just makes me that much more sad that like Mass Effect has really kind of BioWare has just kind of dwindled, and Mass Effect along with it with them. Cause like, yeah, they're working on Mass Effect 4 or whatever. I don't have any faith that it's gonna be good, looking at their
Yeah.
recent output. And like, honestly though, like, it's fine. We should have never even gotten Andromeda if that's what they were going to do. 1
Yeah.
through 3, just let that be
Yeah.
what it
just
is.
let them
Like,
exist.
and especially like we've all said our thoughts on 3, but focusing on 2, I really think that is the peak of the franchise. I think that is the best BioWare game ever made. And yeah, if you're a fan of sci-fi and you play video games, you have to play this game. You just
Yeah, you
have to play this game.
It's accessible too. The Legendary Edition's on every modern console on
Yes.
PC.
It's
It
on Game
runs
Pass.
perfectly. It's on Game Pass.
I have it installed right now.
Like,
I mean, like, and just
they're
like
there.
we talked about value, like with Hitman: World of Assassination, the freaking value you get with the Mass Effect collection.
Yeah.
Like, one story told across 3 games, where like what you do in those
Each
games
game's
actually
almost
changes the outcome.
40 to 60 hours too.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a
With all the
lot of
DLC,
game.
yeah, that is one of the best deals in gaming right now,
Not all the
undoubtedly.
DLC. You're missing one Mass Effect 1 DLC, but it didn't matter. It was just an arena.
Okay.
Mm.
But yeah, all the substantial ones are there. And like, just talking about the collection a little more, like all the improvements to Mass Effect 1, right? Like Mass Effect 1 was kind of a janky mess back in the day.
It had
Much
some,
improved
it had
on
some
the
leftover
collection.
mechanics from older RPGs.
Yeah.
But
yeah, Mass
That's a good way
Effect
of
2,
putting it.
love that game. And it still holds up. Like, I played it recently, like 2 years ago. Just as good as the day I played it.
Yeah.
All right, those are the 8s.
Those
Wow,
are the
look at that.
8s.
we're at
We're over an
7.
hour in and just now getting
Oh,
to number
God,
7.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm already talking. I can start off number 7.
Okay, yeah, go for number 7.
My number 7 is Halo 3. I
Yeah.
again
Yeah.
had to put Halo on this list. And going forward, well, that's not true. Looking at this list, I'm getting ahead of myself. But this game is solely on my list because of the multiplayer. I enjoyed the campaign. I enjoyed the story just fine. That is not the reason I fell in love with Halo 3. I know a lot of people were highly invested in that story, finished the fight and everything. That's cool. I wasn't one of those guys. I played the campaign, thought it was fun. But this game is my like first steps into online multiplayer, and it is still the best online multiplayer game I have ever played. The amount of fun we had with custom games, with just playing with friends only, not even like matchmaking, but like friends only custom games, all these different maps that people made. You could create maps, upload them, and then download the popular ones. The forge mechanics were so good in this game. Lost countless hours after school to playing on those custom maps. And like the online multiplayer itself was really good too. Like just getting online, playing social, playing ranked, and playing the campaign with your friends too was also really fun. A really fun way to play the game. But like, yeah, those multiplayer matches, man, like Halo 3 multiplayer, to me still, nothing has topped that in terms of multiplayer gaming. And I still play it today. It is the only game installed on my Xbox Series X, and I still play it. I still have some friends who play it every now and again, and it's really vindicating. Maybe that's the wrong word, but it like, feels great to play that game and still tear people up online. Because that the people who are still playing Halo 3 are, let's just say that, like, you don't have like new people coming into
the kids
Halo
are on
3.
Infinite, yeah.
Yeah. So
But it's probably mostly boomers like you.
it is probably, but like it's still just a way of like knowing that like, yeah, I still got it.
Yeah.
But
Still got
like
it.
obviously,
Yeah,
like
baby.
there are
Back in
some
the glory
matches
days.
I mean, like if you queue into like a clan stack, you're going to get like torn apart. But like,
Yeah.
obviously, whatever. But like, a lot of the time, I queue into that game and I perform.
I can say this
Um,
isn't nostalgia glasses either. I didn't play this game until the Master Chief Collection came to PC, which was in
Mhm.
like 2020 or something. I don't know. It was late. And I played it with my buddy Tyler, and I really enjoyed the multiplayer in Halo 3. It was
Yeah, it holds up.
really, really
The
fun.
bones of the gameplay in that game is just sublime.
It's just not like anything else. There's just not a lot of arena shooters around these days, where you have to find the rocket launcher, and the map knowledge of where the guns spawn and everything is so important. That was very new to me. I'd never played a game like that before.
And man, like the maps, man, I have so much nostalgia for those maps. The
Yeah.
Pit, Valhalla.
My nostalgia is for
like-
Red versus Blue.
Oh yeah, I mean that's a huge part of it too. Like
Yeah.
look at all the stuff that came out of.
I never
Came out
played
of
Halo, and
Halo
I watched
3.
Red versus Blue.
Oh yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, I loved that show.
But man, like, yeah, the map design was immaculate, and like the Forge just took things up to the next level. And I don't think they ever really captured that same magic with Forge in subsequent games.
Really?
But like,
I mean, you
I
can make a
don't-
whole game in Infinite.
well, like I know when Forge launched, didn't it launch without Forge or something? Like
It did.
the-
It launched without Forge.
the-
Forge came much
so,
later.
So right now it might be better, but like at launch, playing like this game came with Forge and came with such a complete feature set that people could create their own kind of maps, their game modes, and like all this kind of stuff. And it was just such a blast because like it added so much to the longevity of the game because like obviously a multiplayer game has longevity if it's popular anyway, right? Like just by virtue of like people are going to be online playing each other. But like the custom maps and Forge just kept it fresh too. Like you kept getting new content, new kind of ideas coming in from the community that created really fun modes and maps for people to play. So yeah, I just I think Halo 3 is I straight up think it's the best multiplayer game ever
Cool.
made. So putting it on my list here at number 7. It's only number 7 because, as we all know, if you've seen the show before, that I'm very much a single player gamer.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but I had to shout out Halo 3 here.
So
Mike, you want to go next?
yeah, my number 7 is actually Control.
Oh, wow.
Control.
Okay.
Nice.
It's one of those games. It's one of the few games that made me go, "Oh, I'm intrigued." Within
Yeah.
the first like hour, because
Yeah, it's good.
you go into this big bureau building, you cross a corner, you take 2 right turns, you take a right turn, walk like 30, 40, whatever feet, take another right turn, walk another like 100 feet, take a left turn, and you're back into the lobby, but there's now a man who's finished and he's a janitor there. But
Yeah.
you're back where you started, and it makes no sense.
Such a good.
And at that point,
Reminding me of
it-
Severance with
yeah,
that
at-
description.
yeah, at that point, the game grabbed me like, oh, it's gonna mess with me, isn't it?
Ahti, that's the janitor's name.
Yeah, you get to Ahti, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh, why am I back in this lobby? That doesn't make sense. I took 2 right turns and a left turn. I should be in a different room, not back where I started upstairs.
Oh my God, Mike.
I
I
didn't
need
go
you-
up any
the
stairs.
atmosphere and Control is just it's on another level.
They-
Oh my God, you guys need to play Alan Wake 2 so bad.
I do. They nailed that kind of brain, that like this cerebral design
yeah.
where you go like, wait, why am I here? This doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Like your brain just doesn't process how you got here, but you're there. You get used to it after a little bit, but that first time it hits you, you're like, oh, this is going to be one of those games, isn't it?
I could wander the oldest house for 1,000,000 hours.
The oldest house
if they
is
just made more
a
of it.
phenomenal.
I'd play
level.
I'd play any genre in the oldest house. I'd
Yeah.
love a walking sim. I assume FBC Firebreak is going to have parts in the oldest house. The multiplayer shooter they have coming soon. It's just such a good setting. It's so cool.
The combat of Control,
Pretty
it's
good.
so smooth. It's so good.
It's pretty good.
So many options for you to kind of
Pretty
mess
early ray
around.
tracing game too. Very pretty.
Yeah. Yeah, the brutalism, just the sheer oppressive concrete pillars in every single room.
First
But
game that made me think about
sometimes
architecture. Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes the entire world is just flipped upside down because the oldest house itself is this eldritch entity that does not care about your perceptions of physics or architecture or the world around you, and sometimes the entire building will just shift around you.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's nutty, and it nails that this is the SCP Foundation, but it's not.
What's FBC in this?
It's the FBC.
Yeah, Federal Bureau of Control.
And hey, there's a substantial sub-basement that goes into a quarry that goes into an entirely different universe full of mushrooms. Like, you dive into it, and there's so many more questions that get raised that never get answered.
Ahti is so insanely based, too.
And
Ahti is so cool.
It's run by this janitor that might not be a real guy, but also could be a real guy, but you don't know.
The multiverse janitor, yeah.
You don't know anything about Ahti. The more you learn about him, the more you're confused.
Yeah, it's very because you become the director of the Federal Bureau of Control. It's one of the first things that happens in the game. But then the janitor Ahti is telling you what to do the whole game. It's like
the more you learn about Ahti, the more you start to question if he's even real.
Yeah, like who's really in charge here?
Yeah. Is Ahti the oldest
It's
house?
a very disorienting game.
Yeah,
it's
is
so
he some
good.
In a
Finnish
good way.
dude?
Yeah.
Who's was it Dr. Bright or whatever his name is?
I don't remember. The old director?
Not the old director, the other guy. The doctor.
It's been a long time. Oh, right. Casper, Dr. Casper.
Dr. Casper, yeah.
I think that actor died.
Like, there's so many characters that you just never see. You think, are they by the Hiss? Did the Hiss take them? Did the Hiss not take them? And it turns out Dr. Casper did some crazy stuff, and the director got affected. And it's linked to you and your brother, and it's...
Yeah. And Polaris.
God, it's in Polaris. And then there's the board, which are these eldritch abominations that just kind of tell you that stuff's not right, but do you trust the board?
I need to replay this game because a lot of this is
so much.
If you watch Severance, you got to play Control. I'm just gonna say that.
If you've ever read an SCP article, just play Control. You'll live out your wild. It's an SCP game that's better than any SCP game,
and it has like great SCP style writing in it, like documents you can find that are redacted and everything that you can read through. Probably the best found document. No. Second best found documents in any game I can think of.
And the fact that your weapon is also an artifact or an anomaly.
Yeah. What's it called? It's called the
gun, I think.
No, it's maybe is it the gun?
It's something.
Is it the Colt, maybe?
It might be the Colt.
No, that's from Supernatural.
That's from the Supernatural. It might just be the gun. But the fact that the director of the Bureau is chosen by who can put it to their head, pull the trigger, and not die.
It's called the service weapon.
It's metal. That's super metal. The service weapon chooses the director of this entire Bureau by selectively killing them.
Yeah. If you're not the director, you die.
You're not the director. You shoot yourself in the head. If you are, it doesn't kill you.
Yeah.
That's nuts. That's crazy.
Metal Gear.
Good game. A weapon too.
Such a good game.
Yeah. Good shout.
Want
to round out our 7s?
Yeah, I'll close out our number 7. This game's not going to surprise anybody. Factorio.
Wow.
It might surprise people if you heard me talk about it more recently. This was a hard one for me because I had to set my feelings about Gleba aside. This is Factorio base game, not space exploration. Factorio is one of those games. It does to me what Civ does to you, Ahmed. When I played Factorio the first time, it ate me alive. I would wake up and I would go to work and I would have Factorio videos on in the background while I'm working. And then I would get off work at whatever time it was, and I would play Factorio until like midnight. And then I would go lay down in bed and I would play Factorio videos to fall asleep. And then I would wake up the next day and do the exact same thing. And I put like 100 hours into that game in no time, like so fast. I finished the game and I immediately started over and did another save and did it better. And then I immediately started a modded save, and I never quite finished that because the mods were very, very complicated. But there's just so few games that I can look at and say, oh, you've perfected this genre. I do not think anyone will ever do it better. I don't think you can do it different from Factorio, and you can do it in very interesting ways, which they proved. Other developers have proven that. I like Satisfactory. I like some other takes on the factory building genre, but nobody has done it better than Factorio yet. And even the Factorio developers have gone and said, we can't necessarily make it better, but we can add some stuff, some more interesting mechanics with the DLC. The other planets have interesting other stuff you do. But at its core, the basic like conveyor belt to assembler to furnace to whatever to build a science pack, that loop is just so good. And making the factory bigger, and then making blueprints that let you just copy and paste your factory down to expand even faster, and doing logistics networks that get going from the conveyor belts to the trains to eventually space and space age. Just right into my veins. Just so good. Just very difficult to put down until you get to Gleba and hate it and can't even, like, the thought of launching the game does deal psychic damage to you. I can't hear Ahmed.
I don't think Ahmed's been talking.
He just tried to talk. I saw it on the video.
Oh, hello, testing.
Yep,
there we go.
He's back.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there. Fun for this to happen during a video. Okay.
Yeah.
But anyways, go ahead.
Mark.
Just I don't know if I have much more to say. Just Factorio is they call it Cracktorio, and they're right. It's
like one of these days. Yeah, I'm afraid to get into this game because I think it will do similar things to me.
It's difficult to put down. It's so the only reasonable criticism I can levy against Factorio is that it does feel like work. It has the same problem Satisfactory has, which is like once I'm having to really, really think about it, it's like, oh, well, if I was going to engineer something, I could be paid for that. That's my job.
Yeah.
Like, I could be doing software.
But I haven't played Factorio, but Satisfactory at least does a very good job of gamifying that to where it feels fun a lot of the time. Like, obviously, you could still get a little burned out, but like,
it always feels fun, yeah. But burnout is the good word for it, yeah. It's very easy I burn myself out on Factorio because I want to play it, I can't put it down. And then it like just, the fuse ends and it's like, oh, I cannot do it anymore. What a game, though. I mean, there was nothing like it. Like when I first found Factorio, because I didn't want to play it for years. I didn't like the graphics. For some reason, that was like a huge turnoff. And my friends had been bugging me to play it, and I didn't. And then I played Satisfactory, and I was so in love with Satisfactory. And somebody said, "Oh well, if you like Satisfactory, you gotta check out Factorio," and I did. And
the pipeline.
Yeah, I'm
good.
surprised it's not higher on your list.
Yeah. My list gets well, I'll talk about it when we get there.
Yeah.
No spoilers. So I was the first. Was I the last 7 or the first 7?
Yeah, you were the last 7.
You're the last 7.
Should I do my 6 now, or should I pass it? Okay, I'll do my 6. Hitman: World of Assassination.
Oh, nice. Thank you for doing this.
Yeah. I mean, no other game ever has made me get on a plane and fly to Italy.
That's true.
Like, it's a bit of a joke, but it's a bit real. My favorite part of our trip to Italy was Cinque Terre, and the only reason we went, Vernazza, but it was in Cinque Terre.
Yeah.
The only reason we went there was because of Sapienza in Hitman.
Yeah.
And it was my favorite part of the trip. It's the most beautiful place I've ever seen. I sit here all the time and I think about sipping wine in Vernazza. I think about it a lot.
It's I mean, and plus Sapienza, the level itself, just incredible. One of the video gaming's greatest levels, as far as I'm concerned.
I mean,
and to actually go to Vernaza and see like, oh, this is that. Like you could see how the level designers were inspired by this beautiful town to make the level.
And it is just that vibe. Like obviously the game design is also immaculate, but the way they actually kind of make me feel like I'm going on a world tour in Hitman. The only games that even come close to it are maybe the Uncharted games, but you don't get to spend enough time in any one. Like, there's enough downtime in Hitman that it actually kind of feels like a real travel, where you're walking around and getting to know a place. And then there's just, I don't know if you guys have ever seen the speed runs for this game, or
some of them are just unbelievable.
There's a group
like
of
doing
creators,
the craziest things you've ever seen, like ricocheting bullets off of like thrown objects and like. Yeah, I
don't think you or I ever even engaged. This game has live service stuff going on to this day. They do like temporary level contracts and stuff. I never engaged with any of that. I just would even say, even without freelancer mode, which is the roguelike mode that we are both in love with. Although we were in love with the game before freelancer, we talked about
like
it
way before even. It was just that was just the
icing on the cake,
like, the cherry on top of the icing.
It's the reason to revisit it, because I can't imagine myself ever uninstalling World of Assassination.
No.
It's like, if I'm having a bad day, it's such an easy game to fire up and like get cozy and just kill some bad guys.
Plus, like the assassinations themselves are really fun, but like them taking place in these beautiful levels adds so much.
It adds so much.
Because like it adds this globe-trotting feel, even though there's like no. Like, there is a very loose story happening, but it's nothing like you said, like Uncharted, where there's no real impetus for this to be happening on this map other than, like, this is a cool place where we thought it'd be a fun place to design a level. But, like, it still feels like it gives you that globetrotting feeling. And it feels like, wow, I'm seeing all these exotic places. And, like, not only are these exotic places beautiful, but they're excellent levels as well.
And you have all these excellent spy gadgets, essentially, like assassination gadgets and different weapons you can use, and like unorthodox ways to use them sometimes. Like a silenced pistol you would think is excellent because you could shoot a guy, but it's so good for distracting people. It's so good for shooting cameras. It just unlocks, you can shoot doors open. I think you can do that with a pistol. I might be wrong about that. But it just opens up so many doors for you. And there's game knowledge to it, because a silenced weapon is kind of hard to find unless you already know a couple of spots that are guaranteed to have them, or you know that, for instance, the assassins that come after you in the showdown missions always have silenced pistols on them, so you know you can get them there. I think it's probably the best implementation of roguelike mechanics onto a. Is Hitman a AAA game? It's definitely
it kind of feels like it, but
I think it is.
IOI's tough. They're big,
but
it's
they're
maybe
not
double A. It's double A,
like
I would say.
Yeah, they're not like Ubisoft or a PlayStation studio. Or
yeah, they're vastly superior to Ubisoft in every way.
Yeah, Ubisoft. Yeah.
Yeah. But and to most developers, frankly, IOI puts it out, I play it. That's simple.
Yeah, like I'm very sad to hear them walking away from Hitman for now, like because they're doing James Bond next. But you better bet I'm gonna be there day one for that James Bond game. That's gonna
be. If it's just a James Bond skin on a Hitman game,
that's what I'm hoping for. I would eat it up. Yeah, that's what I'm hoping for.
Exactly what I want. Yeah.
What a franchise! Like, especially World of Assassination, like just unbelievable.
Yeah, the old ones are excellent as well, but World of Assassination, and I love that it's kind of a cop out to be able to include all three of those games. But it is if you.
But it is a game. Yeah.
If you buy Hitman 3, it's called World of Assassination now, and you can get the DLC. It's just the improved engine, and all the levels from Hitman 1 and 2 are in it. It's just. I don't even think 3 has the best levels. I think 3 has Berlin, which is really good, but Paris is still like.
But that's the thing. Like, even a bad Hitman level is still one of the GOAT, like
one of the greatest levels of all time.
Like, yeah, it's like, so none of them are boring.
There aren't any that I don't pick because I don't like them.
One or two exceptions. Yeah,
there are ones I don't pick in Freelancer because they're hard. There are ones that are harder than others. And that affects it. But there are ones that are easier for Showdown, and there are ones that are easier for individual targets. I've never won a round of Freelancer, by the way. I've never actually cleared it.
Yeah, neither have I.
It's crazy. As much as we love it, we're not real gamers.
Yeah. No, but like, I don't know, man. It's just the endless replayability of it, because even before Freelancer,
Yeah.
like, there was so many ways to replay all the levels, different entrances, you can start with different equipment, like, there's different targets, like, it's just
Yeah.
unbelievable. Like, it's just so much.
So good. And there's did you know there's like a level creator thing where you can make your own?
Oh, really?
You don't create a level. You take one of the pre-existing levels and you make an assassination in it. Like you choose the
Okay,
target.
yeah. I think
And
I
you
knew
can
that, yeah.
choose like restraints, like what weapon you have to use. Do you have to be silent assassin? I've never played any of those, but that's how Hitman Horse works. They make one and then
Yeah.
share it and speed run it. I want to play it right now. I want to play it. It's again and being able to play that on the Steam Deck, such a good game to kill some time. Playing a level, playing a round of Sapienza while sitting in Vernaza was a peak life experience for me.
Oh, yeah, you did that. I forgot about that.
Yeah, I did that late one night because I didn't want to waste any real vacation time, but we were tired from hiking, and I gotta talk. I wouldn't have gone there. They're intrinsically linked in my mind, like my trip to Vernaza and
Yeah, I mean, that's fair.
World of
Yeah.
Assassination. Just such a beautiful place. The most beautiful place I've ever been.
Now the question is,
I'll go
what
back.
Hitman map will we turn into a vacation next?
I don't know. It's tough. Paris, I'd love to go to. I've been to Paris already though, so I've already done that one. And I also don't know where that. I don't think we could get into that mansion.
We could go to that suburb in Colorado.
No, that's okay. Yeah. No, that's not in Colorado. You're
Where
thinking
was
of
that suburb? Yeah,
the
where-
suburb. I forget where the suburb is. But
I think maybe it was
Colorado's-
I think it was. Oh yeah, you're right. Colorado's a different level. The
Colorado's
suburb
the
was
military
like a
camp.
fictional American town. I
It
think.
was, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, we could go to New
okay.
York. We could go to that bank.
Oh yeah.
I like New York. The level.
Just the bank inside New York, though.
Yeah. Well,
what
they're
a,
not
what a game, though. Like it's
Yeah, what a game.
What a game. All right, Mike. Do you want to go next? You've been
So
silent.
yeah, my next game. You already talked about this, Ahmed. You literally just
Ah.
talked about it. It's actually Halo 3.
Ah,
Literally next
wow.
on the
We
list.
talked about it a
That's why I
lot
was
too. Yeah.
Suspiciously silent, so there's not much I
Yeah.
can add on to it. Other than I could talk about the campaign because I did not
Good.
play the
Do it.
multiplayer.
Ah, so we
So
had
it's two
very
different games,
experiences.
yeah.
with it.
Two different experiences with it. Halo 3 was my first Halo, so I played through the entire campaign, not knowing anything that went on before.
That's
I
funny.
eventually got caught up, read all the novels and everything.
Wow.
Like I was super nerd.
Yeah.
But the Halo 3 campaign is really good. It's
It is.
kind of immaculate. Having it set pretty much for the first half on Earth, it kind of hits different knowing that the Covenant is there. They're on Earth.
Yep,
There's
that's
not
bad.
a Halo ring that you're on. You're in the middle of the jungles of Africa.
Don't they come to Earth in Halo 2?
They do. The first
Okay.
like 3
The first level.
missions are
That's all I've played of Halo 2
first
so far.
3-4 missions are on New Mombasa. But 3 was one of those games where you're running around Earth. And then the flood hits about halfway through. And all of a sudden the flood's on Earth. Even bigger oh no than the
That's
Covenant.
really bad.
That's
Yeah.
a really bad oh no.
That's an
and having-
apocalypse
yeah,
scenario.
It's an
yeah.
apocalyptic scenario, and the only reason that it didn't turn into that is because the elites glassed a quarter of Africa to prevent the flood from getting out.
Ugh.
And you're sitting there not knowing at the time that, oh, is that a bad thing?
It's not a good
It's
thing.
not a good thing that they glassed half of Africa. You're just
People
lucky
lived
they didn't
there.
glass your whole planet to
Yeah.
prevent the flood from killing them all. It's a small mercy.
Yeah.
But the up to the finish where you team up with the flood to kill the Covenant, and then
I didn't know that happened.
and then you have to fight the flood because the flood are
That makes sense because
not
they're
great. Yeah, they're not great. They're not friendly. They just wanted to kill the Covenant.
Yeah.
So they could kill you. And Cortana's one of those levels that makes me disgusted to this day.
Yeah.
Man,
Principally because of how wet everything is.
Ugh.
Ugh.
I've played this campaign so many times, but I don't remember anything from it because like my
Do you
poor
not
memories are from the
remember
multiplayer.
double scarab fight? You take down one scarab by yourself early in the campaign, and then they give you a tank to take down another one. and then they drop 2 on you
At the same time.
at the same time
Mm.
and tell you to have fun. Here's a Hornet, go at it. While the theme's blasting in your ears.
Yeah.
That the game has so many peak and pivotal moments that you can't name all of them. The Warthog run at the end. Well, this
the
entire
Warthog
ring
run at the end is
collapsing around you.
iconic. Yeah, like
There's
I
so many iconic moments here.
oh
That-
man, what a game!
God, what a game! What a stellar end to the franchise.
And plus, like the campaign was gamifying in and of itself because you could like turn on different skulls, which had like
skulls,
difficulty
You had to find the
modifiers.
skulls too.
You had to find them, and then you could like apply them as modifiers, and like all
some
the
of them were
skulls
kinda
turned
tricky.
on. Like beating the game with on Nightmare or whatever with all the skulls turned on is still like one of the hardest things you could do in a video game. I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure.
And some of the skulls are tricky to get because there's one on Covenant that requires you to jump through a specific set of rings.
I don't know if I've
In
ever
order.
played this game without Grunt Birthday on.
I think it's
Oh,
been
yeah.
your daddy that you have to get through Covenant though.
Ah.
Yeah, it's like there's so many little things to discover, so many skulls to discover that are just kind of hidden away. So many little Easter eggs, so many little references to the community. It is a swan song of a campaign for Bungie, and honestly, if they hadn't made Reached, I think people would have been comfortable with them just having stopped with 3.
I think so too.
I definitely would have been like, and
And a lot of people
don't know,
are
like,
with the Reach.
because of capitalism, basically, we can't ever really let anything die.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
can't let it.
But like imagine if Halo was just 1 through 3 and that was it. Like it would be legendary.
yeah, people
Like
would
its
be
status
talking
would be
about
legendary.
those
Yeah.
games. It wouldn't be this. Why is Master Chief still fighting? What happened in between Halo 4 and 5 and Infinite?
Like why is Halo 5 so bad? Like because
Like, you didn't need to read books to understand what happened.
because you
between
had
Halo 1,
such
2,
a
and 3.
strong trilogy, one of the strongest trilogies ever with Halo 1 through 3. And then you kind of add on to it, there are games that aren't quite as good as those 3 games, and now suddenly like the name Halo doesn't really mean what it did
Yeah.
when there were only 3 games.
Like Halo 3 picks up quite literally immediately after 2. Like you jump from High Charity and then you fall straight to Earth immediately. And Halo 2 kind of picks up a little bit. There's a book in between 1 and 2, but it's not as bad as nowadays with Halo where there's like 3 or 4 trilogies of books that you have to read to have any idea what happened in between Halo 5 and Infinite.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's wild.
It's
how
just
much
dumb.
external media you have to understand Halo now versus back then.
And it's
Yeah.
not worth it because Halo Infinite's no fun. The campaign's boring.
It's multitudes of scale, but
Yeah.
2 and 3
Three's
are
peak.
both peaks of the series.
Yeah.
2's really
Absolutely.
good.
2's stellar, but 3 is was my first, and it's the one that I think about the most when I think about Halo.
Yeah, I'm really glad to see we both share this game. Like I feel like if by some small chance all 3 of us have a game shared, that has to be Game Talk's like best game of all time,
Yeah.
right? The game of the podcast.
I think that's
But I don't think it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
But just throwing that out there. All right, so my number 6, and I think this is the last of the 6s, right?
Yeah.
We can get into our top 5 after that. My number 6 is Bloodborne. So
Gotta play this
Bloodborne
game.
is
I played it.
like
Second
out
Souls
of-
mention.
well,
Was Dark Souls on
Dark
honorable
Souls
mention?
was honorable
Yeah.
mention. Bloodborne, I think, is Miyazaki's at his peak, quite frankly. Like,
Really?
I mean, well, not counting like Elden Ring kind of evolved it into something else, but
Mhm.
like the formula that was established was Demon Souls, Dark Souls 1, 2, 3, and Bloodborne. I think Bloodborne stands out as the best game. Like Bloodborne, I think it's Miyazaki. Like he's just firing on all cylinders, right? Like that beautiful level design from Dark Souls 1 is there, and the aesthetic of the game, I think, adds to why it's so strong. Like, obviously, that dark medieval fantasy aesthetic works so well for Souls and Elden Ring, but like having this gothic horror kind of devolve into cosmic horror the more you play the game,
Yeah.
it was just a masterstroke. Like, he executed that so well because like when you start the game, you have no inkling like that's where things are going to go. It just seems like a gothic horror game, like with the gothic architecture and everything, and it looks great, right? Like visually, like the art and the architecture in Bloodborne are so striking. But as you play the game, as your character gains more insight, as he goes more insane, he can see the more truth, like more of the truth of the world, and like it fully becomes like a cosmic horror game as you get deeper in, and I think that's just brilliant. Like,
Yeah.
I think cosmic horror in a game like this, like you don't really see it too much. And why are you shaking your head, Connor?
I'm just thinking I want to play this game so bad, but there's 30
There's
reasons
no
per
good
second.
way to play it.
There's
Yeah, there's
30
no-
reasons per second I'm not going to play this game.
So like
It's-
it is absolutely a crime that this game is still locked away on PlayStation 4 at 30 frames per second. There are ways to like mod it and play it.
There
but,
are.
like,
It's playable on PC now, which is tempting to me. But I want it to it's such a special game. I don't want to get halfway through it and run into a bug. That is
like in I don't know, maybe this is cope or something, but I still fully believe that we are going to get some sort of remastered Bloodborne. Like it just cannot be the case to me that they're just going to leave this game and not do anything
it has
with
to
it.
happen someday.
I just refuse to believe that.
I just
It's
hope it
too
comes to
special of a
PC.
game. It's
just-
too special of a game. And I want to comment on the combat as well, right? Because like up until this point, the Souls games were largely methodical, right? Like you could play without a shield, but like the dodging and rolling and like it was all still relatively slow and kind of rhythmic, and you had to really kind of be careful and watch. Not to say you don't have to be careful in Bloodborne 2, you absolutely do, but Bloodborne was way more fast paced by comparison. It introduced this mechanic where like if you get hit, you have this small window of time to regain your HP by striking the enemy. And like it introduced, and there were no shields in Bloodborne, right? Like they had the gun as your secondary, and that gun was used for parrying, right? So like using the gun for parrying coupled with the health regen on attack, it led to a much more aggressive game than Demon Souls or Dark Souls. And it just that fast pace nature fit Bloodborne so well, especially because like in Dark Souls you have these like big hulking enemies. Like obviously you have faster ones too, but a lot of the enemies in Bloodborne were small and nimble. Like I remember very early on in the game, like the first or second boss is Father Gascoigne, and he's basically like a hunter like you. At least it seems on the surface that he is. But like that fight is extremely fast paced. Like it's
Yes,
it's
is.
over in a matter of like seconds, and it very much is a skill check where it's like either you understand the mechanics of this game or this guy is going to grind you into dust until you do. And like that boss fight really like showed me like what the merits of the combat in Bloodborne were, and I was just like, okay, now I get it. Right, like after beating Father Gascoigne, I was like, I get this, what this is going for, and how it's different from the Souls formula. But like as always, like the boss fights obviously are really cool, but like the strength in Miyazaki's games come from the world building, and the world in Bloodborne is just so unique, so dreary, so dark. So it's that fusion of like I said, gothic horror and cosmic horror that gives it such a unique flavor, such a strong flavor, and it's just one of the best games ever made, straight up. Like I don't know what else to say.
I have it, and I haven't played it. I borrowed it from you, and I didn't
Yeah,
play
you
it.
did. Yeah,
I borrowed
yeah.
it from you for like 4 months, and I didn't
But like
play it.
I just can't imagine playing that game at 30. Like obviously I did for a
Yeah,
long
but doing it
time.
now
but like
is-
but doing it now, like now that everyone has gotten accustomed to high frame rates. Like
Yeah.
obviously console back then wasn't, but now everyone is. So you can't really go back from that point. But like there was also a I forget what they called it, but there was this mode where you could explore like these
The Chalice dungeons.
yeah, Chalice dungeons, right? And they were kind of auto generated.
Yeah.
So like obviously
I'd
that
love to
wasn't
see
the
that come back.
that wasn't the strongest content, but it was still more Bloodborne to play, and you could get important resources by doing that too.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like a useless part of the game.
I wouldn't want a full. Well, I guess we are getting that with Night Rain, but I was gonna say I wouldn't want a full randomly generated Souls game, but I like it as an option. I like
Yeah.
as a side content sort of
And
thing.
some
I
of
think it's
those
really
chalice dungeons were just so impossibly hard. I
Yeah.
can't stress that enough. It was just so infuriating playing those. But I think the final thing I want to highlight with Bloodborne, just the weapons. Best weapons in a Souls game. Period. Like each weapon felt so unique because there were way fewer weapons than Souls and Elden Ring.
Mhm.
Right? So each weapon, it felt like had a lot more care put into it, and the whole mechanic gimmick in this game was the trick weapons, right? So each weapon had like a default state and a secondary state you could like shift to in like either mid combo or just like whatever. And these weapons were so unique, man. Like the saw blade that flips out to like a longer blade, or
Yeah.
like the Kirk hammer, I think it was called, the sword that turns into a giant hammer.
Oh my god, that sounds Monster Hunter-y.
Yeah. And like the whip.
Yeah, I like the whip. The whip's cool.
There were the weapons in Bloodborne are just, I think, way better than any other game Miyazaki has put out. And I would love to see this idea revisited in the future where there's way fewer weapons, but the mechanics for each weapon are way deeper. Like you said, Connor, for something like Monster Hunter.
Yeah.
Like it actually did kind of feel like, obviously not as deep as Monster Hunter, but like these weapons had a lot more going for them than they did in Dark Souls and Elden Ring.
It gave you more reason to do. Like I didn't feel like doing a second playthrough with a different weapon in Dark Souls, really. But it sounds like Bloodborne got you.
Absolutely with Bloodborne, yeah. But yeah, it's I'll say it again, one of the best games I've ever played. It's a remarkable achievement. And I want him to revisit Bloodborne. I don't think he ever will, but like, and I know he's very protective of it. Like he's very proud of Bloodborne, but
I want him to revisit. I want to play it, and I don't want to play it at 30 frames per second at sub 1080p or whatever. Like,
yeah, I don't know. Like, from what I understand is that Sony wants to do it, and I think Miyazaki wants to do it too, but he's so busy with other projects, and Sony will not just give Bloodborne to someone else to even to just do a remaster. I think they respect Miyazaki. They respect Miyazaki too much, and he has enough sway to be like, that won't happen without me. So that's where it's left, I think. But I don't know. I'm a believer. I believe one day the stars will align and we will get another version of Bloodborne. But until then, it will remain at number 6 on my list. So with that, we are now entering the top 5. Our top 5 games.
Yes, I don't know about you guys, but for me, there is a pretty wide, like, the top 5 was cemented way before the bottom 5. Like, there's a huge...
That's interesting to hear.
A huge gap between my top 5 and my bottom 5.
For me, it wasn't like that. For me, I was shuffling this list around constantly. So
my top 5, I was very confident in very early.
Okay, that's good to know.
Can we take an intermission real quick?
Yeah, let's... Well, can we? Okay, yeah, like... Well, why don't you go pee, and then Mike can start with his number 5 game, because I want to keep the train rolling.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll probably go pee after I finish this.
Okay.
But my number 5 is actually surprising. Not surprising to anybody. It's Ace Combat 5.
Oh, very nice. I was wondering when we'd see Ace Combat on your list.
I was kind of struck between 7, 5, and 0 because they all occupy a place in my brain. But I think 5 was one of those that kind of stuck with me a little more because of like the stakes and the story of betrayal, the story of coming back as like all Black Plains and ruining plans, then shooting a satellite down on New Year's Day. Like,
Ace Combat always has like the most dramatic story beats. Is this the one with like the nukes getting slung around?
That's 0. 0 is the one where this country nukes themselves 6 times to show off that they won't be taken or something like that. Kind of like some kind of come and take it core or something. But 5 is the one where after the country nukes themselves, 10 years later they organize a kind of open, hot war between two countries that had been slowly moving towards peace from behind the scenes of both countries after they attempt to assassinate the presidents of both countries. Come back together.
Ace Combat just has the wildest.
Yeah, you're in a war now. Now you're fighting a war. You almost win the war. But then it's revealed that the president's still alive. Both of them. They've been working together from behind. You run away after they try to kill you. Disappear, pretend to be dead. Come back in all black planes fighting for the presidents of these two countries against both countries. And they're usurpers.
Was Kojima like a consultant on the plot of this game?
No, it wasn't. And then you shoot down a satellite because you've ruined all of their other plans to use these weapons to completely kill Yusia, and Yuktobania, who helped destroy Belka 20 years ago.
Those are definitely some JRPG sounding country names.
But Strange Rail's wild.
Yeah.
Strange Rail's completely wild. And everything after Zero is basically explained as the Belkans didn't like it. So they infiltrated the government and decided to sow chaos. But it accumulates in this nice Latin chanting as you're shooting down a satellite. It's this nice somber song over a city. And yeah,
sounds like a touching moment.
It's a very touching moment because you're preventing a global calamity.
Okay.
Which that's typically how Ace Combat games end, is you're preventing a global calamity while the Latin chanting gets louder and louder in your ears.
You're preventing a global calamity, but like several country-sized calamities have already happened.
You haven't nuked any countries. You committed a little bit of crime. Zero was worse. Zero was far worse because you're
Which
preventing...
one was
this? This was 5.
5.
Nice.
Zero has you preventing this anarchist terrorist group who got sick of the fact that they've been fighting wars because they watched a country nuke themselves 7 times, that they want to nuke the rest of the world and start over without borders. And you're fighting your friend because he betrayed you for these guys.
Ah, right. Okay, there it is. There's the anime connection.
There's the
It's
anime.
so nutty. And this is all claiming to build up to Ace Combat 3, where you're fighting 3 corporations, but it's revealed that you're in a simulation the entire time and that you're not real, that everyone else is not real. The people you've been fighting have all been robots. And this
5 is
only
before 3?
But everything after 3 is before 3. And the only version of 3 that is canon is the Japanese version, because the American version is only half the game, because they didn't translate the rest of it. 2 and 3, 2 and 1 don't matter though. 2 and 1 don't matter. They don't take place in Strange Rail. Ignore those games. And then you get the 7, where suddenly it's decided, because of all these calamities, we're gonna take 3 giant birds, fly them around, and use them as peacekeepers. But oh no, they got hacked by the Belkans. Now they're out to kill you.
Okay.
It's just explaining Ace Combat could take me an hour and a half of podcast time.
Yeah.
Dude, I feel like we should make a quiz. We should make a quiz where each question is like, is this plot from Metal Gear or Ace Combat?
It would be so really convoluted, fun. But 5 hits, the game was difficult. I found myself running out of ammo a lot early game and just having to rely upon guns. But it does pay off. It does tell the most anti-war story, and it does lay it on thick, especially when you're dogfighting over a stadium of your supposed victory parade, and you watch one of your friends get shot down and die trying not to crash into a stadium full of 30,000 people. Like, the game doesn't pull its punches at any point. And for a game about flying planes, it sure does tell you a lot about how bad war is.
Based.
Yeah, it's nutty. 5, it's the most recent ones I've played too. Like, there's no recency bias. There's no nostalgia for Ace Combat.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
played
you
these
you
all
played
in
through
like
this
a
whole
year.
series like
Yeah,
last year, right?
yeah, like
Yeah,
a year or two ago. So
I
it's all
remember.
fresh in my brain that it's just cool. The whole universe is cool. Planes rad, war bad. You know,
That's
like
great. Great slogan.
yeah. I'm excited for 8 whenever they're gonna do it. It might come out in a couple years. I hope so. I hope planes are still rad, and I hope war's still bad.
So true.
Let's hope.
Let's hope.
All right. Do you want to also take a pee break, Mike, while Connor
Yeah.
does his? Okay.
Right, what Connor does his?
I don't think. Wait, Mike, you don't care about Terraria, do you?
No, it wasn't on my top 10.
Okay. Number 5 is Terraria.
Terraria. Okay. And
Uh,
your top 5 have more weight.
Yeah, my top 5 is like I think they're. I'm really confident in my top 5. My bottom 5 could have been kind of in any order. They're all very similar to each other in how much I
Yeah.
love them. Terraria is a really special game to me, though. This is a game I bought, I think, on release. It came out in May 16th, 2011. I remember my buddy, I distinctly remember the conversation. I had a friend who was trying to sell me on Terraria while we were waiting for the bus to go home. And I was just like, it's just 2D Minecraft. It's just 2D Minecraft. I didn't want to buy it. He broke me. I spent the $275 or whatever that it cost to buy this game, and I've played it for like
Crazy.
400 hours. It's a 2D building game, but it's really not that similar to Minecraft. But also it kind of is, because I have the you know how you have the Minecraft phase and you play Minecraft.
Right,
But-
and only Minecraft for a while.
Yeah, but Terraria has an end state, unlike Minecraft, that
Yeah.
you actually like decide to turn it off, and it has good pacing and stuff. Like you play through it, and then you get a certain amount through, and then you're like, okay, I have the resources, I want to do some building, and you do some building, and you've got your base, and then you play through a little further, and you're like, okay, I have way better resources now. I could feasibly build something much larger now, and you probably build a second base that's going to be much nicer, and that's probably going to be what you ride out until the end game. I don't know. I know you've started a few Terraria runs with me
I
once
have,
or
yeah.
twice, but we never.
And even like without you, I've played Terraria a bit, and I always really like what I play. It's just
You dig down and you get that boom beep boop boop bop.
Oh
boop,
yeah, it's
doo,
very
beep,
good.
boop. I had a friend tell me he was gonna play that at his wedding.
Okay.
It's so good. The soundtrack of Terraria is just incredible.
And like just looking at it from an outsider's perspective, it's just so daunting to me how much is actually in that game. I mean, I love it. Like it's intimidating.
Something that's really cool now is they released the original version of Terraria as an option on Steam, like a beta option. You can play the release version, which is way shorter. Like there's so much less to do in it. It ends on Skeletron. You get the magma armor and you fight Skeletron, and that's like the end of the game. You're done at that point.
Uh-huh.
And they, that was originally in the game, and then it was like a big surprise. We got 1.1, and it like added hard mode and doubled the game, and then we got 1.2, and it did it again, and then we got 1.3.
They're still putting out updates, right?
Yeah, there's an update coming in 2025. There's no like whoppers like, well, maybe. I mean, I guess it could happen, but to my knowledge, there's nothing in the pipeline that's going to be the size of like a 1.1, 1.2, 1.3.
Yeah.
But we, quality of life stuff, events,
like,
they did
I feel like they've
crossovers.
said that before too.
They have.
And then-
They ended development. Redigit started a family, and there was like the whole Starbound saga, and Starbound ended up being kind of dog water. In comparison, at least, it's maybe not that
Yeah.
bad a game, but when you show it next to Terraria, it's just nowhere near as good.
Uh-huh.
And everybody was like, "Oh, well, Terraria is dead, but at least we have Starbound coming." And then Starbound wasn't that good, and everybody was pretty sad about it. And then like an angel descending from the heavens, Terraria has another update coming out that adds more bosses, more everything to play. And I don't know, man. It's such a good. If my buddy Antonio didn't have a kid, I think we would still probably be sitting down and playing Terraria all the way through once a year, because we did that for a long time.
And I've played a lot of Terraria with my brother.
Yeah. It's a great multiplayer game. It's a very good social lubricant, because you do spend a lot of time just mining, but
Yeah, I think if I ever revisit Terraria, it will have to be in a multiplayer.
I have
capacity.
never I've never played through Terraria single player. I don't.
Oh yeah, okay.
I've only ever done multiplayer worlds. It's kind of daunting, like you said. There's a lot to do in Terraria, and there are certain tasks that I've actually never done. I don't think that I don't know. I've set up a single player world because that's something I like about Terraria is your character can go in between worlds, so you can like set up a single player world and make a little bit of progress when your friends aren't on, like as far as resource gathering and stuff, and then rejoin in the multiplayer server and have access to those things, at least your inventory. And that's nice. So I have like single player bases set up where I can do some resource gathering and stuff. I never really got super into the building. I did a few builds, but nothing crazy. The one thing I like, it has, I don't know, it actually reminds me a little of Monster Hunter in the depth of mechanics, because you have the potions, you have the gear-based progression. I guess that's kind of it. You don't have the complex combat, but it does, like, there are mechanics that you can ignore until you get to the point you can no longer ignore them because the game gets too hard. Like the potions, I cannot imagine beating Terraria without having every potion in the game available to you to get it done quicker. There's a lot of stuff I haven't even played yet. They started releasing these set seed Terraria worlds that are much more difficult. And one of them is Upside Down. You start down in the very bottom of the world in Hell, but Hell is a little bit safer. And then you have to dig your way up. And I think that's really interesting. There are like a bunch of them. And they're like fixed seed. I don't know if when you plug in that seed you get the same world every time, which is kind of funny. But you type in this seed, and it gives you like a much harder difficulty and things like that. They just keep adding to this game. That's probably what's coming this year, is more of those.
Yeah, I mean, like, this is just one of those games you never stop hearing about, and I love that. Like, almost
it's
selfishly, I feel like, yes, keep putting stuff out. There's even more stuff for me to get into when I finally get into.
Yeah,
this
when you
game.
finally play it. Yeah, let me know if you want to hop in sometime. But
It'll
of the
happen
games
one day.
I'm constantly pestering you to play, Terraria is kind of low on that list because this is one I've played so much of that
Yeah,
it's got to be the right time. Like Minecraft, it's got to be the right time. You got to be really feeling it. And it is long. It is like a playthrough of Terraria is probably minimum 20 hours. And that's with me knowing everything to do.
Oh, yeah, so it'd probably
Yeah.
be like 2-3x,
Yeah.
probably even more of that for a completely new person.
It is not a short game.
Yeah.
And I've forgotten some stuff. So I just, the music is just playing in my head now. That boop, beep, boop, boop, boop. God, it's good. And it was another one. It came out, what did I say? May 2011, like
Yeah, it was one of those pioneering
early
kinda
indie
indies.
game. And this was one, this game is a game that actually kind of got me into game development because the prototype, of course, now I know what an MVP is, and I know that this isn't terribly rare, but the first build of Terraria was thrown together in a week. Like, it didn't have all the features, obviously, or all the content, but like
Okay, just
the,
like a
the world
proof of
gen,
concept.
some of the art, yeah, it was thrown together very quickly. And the game itself was thrown, like the original release, I think, was like 6 month or a year project. It was a very short development time
That's impressive.
because it
That's
was
crazy.
inspired by Minecraft, and Minecraft had not been around that long. God.
Sorry, I'm like starting to shift a little bit now. You know,
I
you
know,
sit
my
in one
back
place
is
for 2
killing
hours
me.
and you start
Yeah.
Yeah.
start hurting,
Yeah, we're old.
especially at our advanced age. We're 31, right? We're all
I'm
30. No, Connor's like
28.
29.
I'm
No,
28.
Connor's a baby. Okay, yeah.
29.
All right. Anyways, my number 5, and it took a lot to consider which one to put here, but I decided to put The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker at number 5
What a
on my
game.
list.
Oh my God, I'm glad. I'm
just-
glad it was in here. This was in consideration for me as well.
I just love this game so much. Like
It's my first Zelda.
and if I was rational, right? Like if I was being totally rational, it's like, okay, Breath of the Wild is probably a better game. If I wanted to be objective, rational, what have you, but like Wind Waker to me is the most special Zelda game.
It's also the prettiest Zelda game, I think. I
Yeah,
still don't think.
its art style is evergreen. It's never going to look ugly. Unlike something like
I honestly still think the GameCube
Ocarina
original,
or Twilight Princess. Yeah.
the GameCube original still looks better than the Wii U version to my eye. I really like it.
I haven't seen the GameCube original in a long time, and honestly, I haven't even played the HD version either because I was holding out hope for us to get a version on Switch, but I don't know if that's ever gonna happen.
I ended up
But-
emulating it on my Steam Deck, which was a pretty
Yeah.
good facsimile of a Switch or a Wii U.
But, like, I mean, it couldn't be a top 10 list without Zelda appearing on someone's list.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
Yeah.
Zelda is one of the most storied
the game
franchises.
franchise, yeah.
I mean, like, it is one of the most critically acclaimed franchises in gaming history, if not the most, if you really look
Critically
at
acclaimed, but not a sales juggernaut before Breath
it.
of the
Before
Wild,
Breath of the Wild changed everything, right?
which is
But, like,
interesting to me.
in video gaming circles, it's been beloved
Yeah.
since time immemorial, and particularly Wind Waker, the seafaring aesthetic, like it really captured
I
like
love the
that
ocean.
sense of adventure so well, especially with that theme blasting out.
It also, like,
the
you're a
Great Sea
kid and you
theme.
don't, like, it really felt like that game would go on forever when I was a kid. Like,
It did. It
like there
felt
was
like that.
infinite to explore.
So many islands to see, so many secrets on each island to uncover. Man, like talking about this game I was like, I wonder why I love One Piece so much. Maybe
Yeah,
this
I
was
know,
a formative kind of thing.
Well, but this is
Yeah.
probably inspired by One Piece.
Yeah, like it goes back around to that.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the islands were all there was something to uncover on each island, even if it was small.
Yeah.
And having like obviously Zelda games are known for being like laden with secrets, but having I don't know how many islands were in this game? Like 50 or something?
I think there's an island in every tile, and I think
Right, and how many tiles were there?
I think it's 10 by 10. I think
10
there
by
were
10. So
100.
like 100 islands for
yeah.
you
I know a
let's
lot
just
of
throw out a
them
number.
were like little, very small things.
Right, but like
yeah.
there's something.
Yeah.
You're going to venture into a square.
It might be 7 by
find
7.
something.
It might have been 49.
It might have been.
That
7
feels more realistic.
right. But yeah, like it was this game teeming with stuff to discover. There was this massive sense of adventure. Pair that with the classic Zelda formula, where you're Link, you're going through these dungeons, you're getting these weapons, you're killing these bosses. It all worked so well for me. Like even taking into account like the kind of boring middle of that game, where you're like hunting for the what was it, the Triforce pieces?
The Triforce pieces, yeah, that
like it.
that was
Like
rough.
there was
There was greatness in the Triforce hunt, but
yeah.
not very much.
Well, like I mean, and granted, I have not played Wind Waker in a long time. I've played it several times in my younger years, but I feel like I could excuse that even now because like the adventuring aspect on the sea of it adds so much to me. I think it makes up for its shortcomings.
I think it's one of the best Zeldas to run a randomizer of. I've never done it, but I watched Small Ant and I've watched Linkus both do Wind Waker randomizers. And I think it's a very special game for the randomizer because it just fits that open world format better than Ocarina of Time, which is the other one people tend to do a randomizer.
Yeah.
in.
Yeah, and like I will also say this was the first Zelda game I fully played through.
Me too.
So
I think it was the first
played
game
this-
I ever beat, I think.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I played this before Ocarina, and man, I just remember getting to Ganon at the end so vividly, and how
Best writing.
momentous
I think
that boss
probably
fight felt.
still the best writing in a Zelda game. The
And it's like the water is like cascading down around you, and you just square up with him and you duel him, and it was an incredible. Like I remember like reloading my save at that final boss fight and just playing it over and over and over again. Like
Yeah.
it was just so cool.
I wonder if I still have that on my memory card.
Yeah, it was.
I probably do.
It's
And then
just
this
a
was-
really special game, and
this
like
game
the
had
whole
New Game
twist
Plus.
with like Tetra and Zelda, and like it, and like the idea of like the old Hyrule being
Yeah.
flooded
See.
under the sea again.
Now, granted,
One
that meant
Piece.
nothing to me because I
Like,
didn't know.
Yeah,
I had no Hyrule in my heart, you know? I didn't know. So
Right,
that hit weird
but,
for
like,
me.
but
But the idea of a sunken kingdom being
yeah,
below the
it's just
waves, yeah,
so-
that was sick.
it just stokes that adventurous spirit.
That tapestry opening, too, to the game. The do-do-do-do,
Oh, yeah.
do-do-do-do.
Telling the story of Ocarina of Time at the beginning of
Yeah.
the game. It felt like something epic, important, momentous was happening when you played this game.
It's crazy that people didn't like it when it came out. That's
I will
still blows
never
my mind.
understand that.
Me
I will
neither.
never ever like even if you're like a big graphics person or whatever.
It looks better than the Space World thing that people.
even if you think Ocarina of Time looks better, how can you play this game and think that Ocarina of Time is better? I don't know.
Yeah,
Like that's
I agree,
kind of what I
yeah.
think. Like
No,
I-
like,
that's
I-
probably a hot take too, because obviously Ocarina is probably the most beloved game of all time. But
I have a lot of dunks.
I
People
love
say,
Wind Waker.
People say Ocarina
Yeah.
of Time is the greatest of all time, and I can't reasonably agree to that when Wind Waker's sitting right there doing
Yeah.
all of it better to me.
Yeah, I just love The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker so much. I don't think any Zelda game will ever truly dethrone it. Like I said, if I'm being rational, then yeah, probably Breath of the Wild
But yeah,
is a better game. But
it is.
but in my heart, like it's just how important that game is to me and how fun it is to still play. Because like obviously I haven't played it recently, but like I've played it definitely after childhood, and it's still just such a blast to play. And like all the characters too, so expressive, so emotive. There's so much personality packed into this game. More so than any other Zelda game. Like even Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, like the NPCs in those games are emotive, but they never felt quite as real as Wind Waker to me.
Yeah,
And I just freaking love this game, man. That's all I got.
I love me a good boat game.
So number 5, that's our number 5.
Number 5's done. On to number 4.
On to number 4.
I'll kick us off on this one, I think,
Sure.
because I think it feels fair to me. Elden Ring.
Oh, what a game. I'm surprised this is up there for you.
This was tough. I wanted one Souls representative, and I was between
Yeah.
Dark Souls 1 and Elden Ring. And I thought about Schiefer Riverwell for 2 seconds and had to
It's
go
just-
Elden Ring.
What a moment. That is one of the defining moments in any video game I've ever played.
It's
Straight up.
so good. And it's just that massive world. I am mostly leaning on the first half of Elden Ring because I do really think the first half is the peak. It gets linear towards the end and you lose me a little bit. But
then you come in with the DLC
then you come in with
and
that
it's
DLC.
just like, my God, it's Elden Ring, but even better somehow, world building wise.
Yeah.
World wise, yeah.
Well, yeah.
It's just
World design wise, I still
world
think,
design wise, that's the right word. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't know if I had to choose between Shadow of the Erdtree and Elden Ring, I think I would still choose base game Elden Ring. I don't know.
'Cause there's
That's
just
tough.
so much, like what he managed to do. Like I still am just in awe of this game sometimes. Cause like
Yeah,
you have the traditional Souls levels in this game
in the game.
and a giant open world full with its own secrets.
And
It's
an
just
open
like,
world
what?
that like kind of competes with like Breath of the Wild
Yes.
tier. Yeah. You really get lost in the world. I don't know what there is to say that hasn't already been said about this game. It's a masterpiece. It's really, really good.
And I love that this game came out in 2022. And like I've said it before on the show, it's a huge reason like why I love video games is that it's never just static, right? Like you look at the greatest books or the greatest movies, people have their lists
Mhm.
from decades past. But every few years or so there's a game that comes out that really shows people like this is what video games can still do in terms of inspiring awe. And Elden Ring did that.
Yeah.
So
It really
just-
sucked all the air out of the room in 2022. Nobody wanted to talk about anything else. It was all
yeah, no other game even came close, and
Yeah.
very good games came out that year.
Yeah. What a masterpiece. I don't know. I'm stun locked thinking about it. It's one of those things. The only reason I have not done another playthrough of Elden Ring is that it takes 80 hours.
It's too much. Yeah,
It's too
like,
much game.
especially if you combine that with Shadow of the Erdtree. Now it's just, and like,
Yeah.
let's just put it this way: like, if you've never played Elden Ring, you have a feast in
before
front
you.
of you.
I can't believe we both went for that.
Yeah, you have a feast in front of
Yeah,
you. Like,
you
there's
do.
no other way to say it. Yeah,
and every bite is delicious. I feel like in all the other Souls games, there's areas that I kind of dread going to, and I guess that would be Caelid and Elden Ring. But I don't think Caelid is bad. It's just like horrible to look at intentionally. So
yeah, it's just oppressive. But like, that's the beautiful thing about Elden Ring.
and the cultural
In Souls or
phenomenon.
Bloodborne, even like, yeah, that too. We'll get to that. But like in Souls and Bloodborne, like if you're stuck somewhere, you're stuck.
You're stuck.
You're just stuck. In Elden Ring, if you're stuck, just walk in any other direction and you'll find something interesting to take your mind off of it and you can come back. Like the dynamic nature of Elden Ring, what he was able to accomplish with that, it was brilliant, right?
It's
Like
masterful.
it solved the number one kind of difficulty complaint about the Souls games in the most elegant way, where it's just like, just have more excellent game to play.
Yeah, more.
You know, like,
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah. And yeah, this is the one that really like blew the doors off. Like Dark Souls obviously was popular, but Elden Ring became a global phenomenon.
Global phenomenon. I mean, it was just so special to be playing that game at the same time as all my friends, which is very rare for me. And talking about it and like, how did you do this? I knew people that like didn't play video games that tried to play Elden Ring, and granted that didn't always go so
Good luck.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like it had that kind of cultural power.
Yeah.
And
even to this day, if you go on twitch.tv, there's still a sizable amount of people streaming Elden Ring.
Right. It's a good game.
Very good game. Okay. This is number 4, right?
Yep.
Number 4.
Do you want to go, Mike, or should I?
Yeah, I'll go because this one's going to be a little shorter of a number 4
Okay.
because I doubt anyone's played this here.
Uh-oh.
My number 4 is actually Command and Conquer Red Alert 2.
I have played this game.
You've played it?
Wow, okay.
I've played
surprising.
about an hour of this game, but I
I've
have played it. I
played-
wanted to get the gamer cred.
10 to 20 plus hours of this game.
Yeah.
Me and my little brother would play this all the time with each other. It's
Yeah.
one of those RTSs that hits just right. All the factions were fun. Yuri was fun. Bombing people to the Stone Age with Kirov bombers was fun. The fact that anywhere in the game, if a player spawned a Kirov, you could hear it spawn, made those units
That's funny.
terrifying. Even if they were
I know a
an
couple
enemy,
people who
you could tell.
who've sunk some serious time into this game.
Yeah, I've sunk a lot of hours into Command and Conquer as a series. I had to put Red Alert 2 because I think it is one of the most fun and not well balanced, but most fun and visually unique games. It's the Cold War, but the Allies have time travel and the Soviets have weaponized giant squids. Like,
Yeah.
it's so goofy, but it's not terribly goofy like 3 was. It struck the balance. The Soviets invaded the USA. That whole cutscene with the Statue of Liberty getting bombed by Kirov airships is kind of nutty. I didn't really play as much of the campaign as I would have liked, but I did play a lot of skirmish and multiplayer. Game was just fun. I really enjoyed it. It was formative. All the Command and Conquer games were. It's the reason I still like RTSs to this day, even though there's not a lot of good ones out there anymore.
No, it's been a bit, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's been a bit since a really, really good, solid 10 out of 10 RTS has come out.
Was Halo Wars 2 any good? Did you play it?
I didn't play Halo Wars 2. I didn't like Halo Wars 1.
Okay.
I
Okay,
liked
well.
Halo Wars 1, but I didn't like it enough to play the second game, you know?
Yeah.
It didn't strike my fancy of RTSs that are like Command and Conquer. They were kind of one of a kind.
Mm-hmm.
Sad. Again, another game in this list that will never get another game in the franchise.
Yeah. Don't worry, I have a few of those
It's
too.
such a sad existence that most of the games that I really enjoyed a lot will never get another one. We'll never get another Dishonored. We'll never get another Command and Conquer. We'll never get another
Or
Wild Arms
worse.
game. Killzone's
Or you'll
dead.
get a bad
we'll
one.
get a Mass Effect and it'll be complete trash.
Yeah.
I think there is a Mass Effect
We'll
coming.
never
it's
get
gonna
a-
be complete trash.
We'll never get another good Halo game. Like, it's so
Yeah,
easy to
that's
be
actually
like
likely.
disappointed and looking back at all these like my favorite games of all time and thinking, man, we're just never gonna get that quality again, I guess.
I think that's okay though, because like I think it makes room for other things,
Yes.
and we'll always have those old games. All right, I guess it's me. My
Yeah.
number 4 of all time. What a thing to say. Is Persona 4 Golden.
Okay, yeah.
I cannot shut up about this game. Like every time we
We
talk
talked
about
about it
Persona,
recently. Yeah.
this game has to come up. I think this is the best Persona game. It is one of my favorite games ever made. And obviously, I think a huge part of that is because Persona 4 was my first Persona. I think if I had done Persona 5 as my first, I might feel that way about Persona 5, but that didn't happen, so I don't know. But Persona 4 Golden, it introduced that concept of fusing those social elements with that JRPG, with the really compelling storytelling. That formula just works so well, and Atlas, no one does it like Atlas.
Nobody
they
does
kind
it
of
like Atlas.
they kind of pioneered that kind of uh, social mechanic driven gameplay, and they're masters of it.
Pioneered and perfected.
Pioneered and perfected.
It's so
Yeah, and
good.
especially Persona 4, like because Persona 3 and Persona 5, they're immaculate games. I love
Yeah.
those games. They both take place in a city, and which is great, right? Like, especially Persona 5, like, it really feels like you're smack dab in the middle of Tokyo, like,
It
with
does.
the train system and everything. But Persona 4 was a black sheep in that regard, where it takes place in a small, like, kind of rural town, in the countryside of Japan. And what it is able to capture with that setting is a feeling that I don't think any urban setting can capture. It really captures the spirit of that small town, Inaba. And I don't know, like there is this kind of character to the town itself that isn't present in 3 or 5, because like this is a small rural town, and I relate to it, right? Like I grew up in Charleston, West Virginia. It's not as rural as Inaba is in the game.
It's more suburban than anything.
Yeah, that's true. But like I can understand, like in the game, you're a teenager, right? You go to school, whatever. Like your friends are like, yeah, the main thing we do to hang out like after school for fun is hang out at like this giant department store, because like there's like nothing else, right? Like and like but they find fun in that. There's joy in that. Like they make that their kind of hangout spot, and that becomes a place that you never forget because of that. Because it means so much to these characters. Like, and there's so many little places in this small town that like you just remember after all is said and done, because like it not being this sprawling metropolis made it more of a character to me, the setting. And that's nothing to say, like the story I think is just way more interesting than 3 or 5 in Persona 4, because it is a murder mystery largely, right? Like the premise of the game is that there's this sleepy town that you move to, and shortly after you move there, people start dying, and nothing like this has ever happened here before. What is going on? Who is killing these people? And it becomes clear, like the more you play the game, that like this cast of wonderful characters that you're introduced to, one of them is the killer, and you have to figure that out by the end of the game.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, and if you get it wrong at the end of the game will just end, right? Like, so you have to like it's hard to get it wrong. It's hard to get it wrong. Yeah, it kind of is, right? But like that is the crux of this game, right? Like there's a murderer in this town. You're this kid trying to adjust to his new life. Obviously, he has the persona powers. That's the whole thing. But like you make these friends. These friends are kind of like the investigation team trying to figure out, because like obviously there's a supernatural angle to all these murders that only you know because of the personas and all that. But like these kids are trying to figure out like what is happening and who is killing people in their home, their hometown. So I think that's just a really compelling hook for a story. And I think it certainly, like I really like the story in 3 and 5, and especially 3. I think where it ends up going is like kind of the peak of this franchise story-wise, but like overall I think 4's story is just the best because that murder mystery hook is so strong.
I can't wait for 4 to get the remake treatment.
Oh god, dude! Like it's going to be, and it absolutely will, right? Like
sink my. I think it's rumored to be happening right now. Like they're working.
Yeah,
on it,
I'm sure it's still a ways out, but like, yeah, the second that happens, man, like I can't wait to dive back into this world. like reintroduce myself to these characters. I've said it before, I'll say it again. It's very cheesy, but I'm going to say it like at the end of the game, it felt like I was saying goodbye
They're
to
your friends.
friends,
Yeah.
right? Like I've played this game for over 100 hours. I've gotten to know each of these characters so well, and like it was a very bittersweet thing ending that game. But yeah, like the familial connections in this game are so strong too, because like you move in, like similar to Persona 5. I'm using that as a reference because I know you played it, Connor. You
Mhm.
move into basically your uncle's house for a year, and you really bond with him. You bond with his daughter, and you bond with like the local community. Like the cast of characters in Persona 4 is so strong. Like I can't stress that enough. And yeah, it's just I guess the one criticism is like the dungeons are obviously way better in Persona 5 and even better in Metaphor. But like that is something they've been like evolving and improving over time. I hope like a remake kind of improves that, but like even if they don't, like I think the core gameplay is just so good in Persona. Like that's excusable.
It is.
Um
It's the best
yeah,
turn-based combat of any game. I
yeah,
think.
I agree with that.
Well, turn-based like menu combat. I'm not going to
Yeah.
include strategy games in this.
Right. But another thing too, the music always hits so hard in Persona, and Persona 4
Oh
is
my
no
God, yeah.
exception. Like the soundtracks are just like some of the best songs you've ever heard, straight up. Like it's just I can't gush enough about Persona 4 Golden. And like what a way for me to play it too on the Vita, right? Like I played this game entirely on the Vita. And like that connection between Persona 4 Golden and Vita they're inseparable in my mind. Like that is the platform to play that game. Obviously now it's available on PC and everywhere else, but like for the longest time,
Persona 4 is on PC.
Yep, Persona 4 Golden is on PC.
How do I
yeah.
not know this? Okay, I need to get that.
But for the longest time, it was only on PlayStation Vita, which is kind of wild for a game of this caliber to only be on PlayStation Vita.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What a handheld. The little handheld that couldn't.
It is my favorite JRPG of all time. Yeah. Okay, let's
Very
move on
nice.
to number 3. Who wants to go next?
I think we want Mike to go next.
Oh my
'cause I
god,
started
my
this.
number 3? Ooh.
Yeah. Oh
yeah,
man, he
really
doesn't sound
up
like-
there now. Yeah.
My number
No
3 is
takesies,
actually
backsies.
Ocarina of Time. It's not my
Okay.
number 1. It
Had to be on here for one
it
of
had
us.
to be on here. It's not a top.
Our
10,
list is now respectable.
Yeah, it's not a
in the
top
eyes of
10
the public.
favorite games list. unless I
IGN
put
doesn't hate us.
Ocarina of Time on it.
Yeah. I mean, deserved, honestly. Like
it's a good
there's
game.
certainly arguments.
Being that Zelda game that has started the Zelda game formula,
Yeah.
it has to get at least something. It might not be the best, it might not be the greatest, but it is one that I
the Zelda
think
game.
about a lot.
And it is like it's my most played Zelda game,
Yeah.
actually.
I've played it a
Ocarina
lot.
of Time is the only one I've actually like rolled credits on. No, I've played Breath of the Wild twice, but
Yeah.
Ocarina of Time I've rolled credits on like 3 or 4 times. I played it on the GameCube, I played it on the N64, I played it on the 3DS. I think I emulated it. Oh, I played it on the Wii. Like
Yeah, I've played it. I played it on emulation. I played it on original hardware.
Did you play it back like at the time? Like
Yes, I did play it when it was fairly new back in the day as a
it's
kid.
crazy. Yeah.
It
I wish I had that experience.
too,
Like, my
'cause-
first time playing it was on GameCube.
yeah, I
think.
original hardware, it's certainly a game. It's one of those games that you play it, you remember it, nostalgia kind of blinds you to how jank it was back then.
Yeah.
But I mean, look at what it pioneered.
Yeah,
Like
it did.
imagine playing that after like A Link to the Past or something, and that's the next Zelda. I mean,
yeah.
it's got to be just the most mind-blowing experience.
Well, they were making this game and they didn't know how big they were. They didn't know what they were going to be able to do on the N64. So like originally the design of this game was it was all going to take place in Ganon's castle. So
Really?
even the developers did not know that they could fit a world this big on an N64 cartridge. It was really revolutionary in that way to fit an adventure on that scale.
Yeah. It's like it pioneered 3D games in a way that in an era where jumping to 3D was kind of a hard jump, the Zelda franchise
Yes.
nailed it. They
Nailed it.
absolutely
They
nailed
nailed it so hard, it's kind of unreal.
Yeah.
Like how hard they nailed
I mean, can you imagine gaming without L targeting?
Yeah,
like,
that's
what-
Just
yeah. No
Like-
locking on.
Yeah.
Like
no
what?
lock on, no nothing.
Yeah. What a game.
What a game. What an absolute behemoth of a game.
And like it was just such a again, like Wind Waker, I use this word. It was a journey. Like you start out as young Link, you freeze yourself in time, you're adult Link, and then you can eventually switch back and forth, and like all the dungeons you can do as both. It was
Yeah,
just there was just so it felt like there was so much in that game.
The way my jaw hit the floor walking out of the Temple of Time as adult Link and
Oh,
seeing
yeah.
what had happened to
Yeah.
this beautiful, vibrant town, like reduced to redeads.
Yeah, and that town they nailed so well
Oh my
as
God, yeah.
young Link.
Yeah,
Like it felt so happy and alive.
those
And
pre-rendered backgrounds.
it's hard to do that, right? Because like it was all pre-rendered, like all the animations were repeating, but like they still like maybe it was with the music or something. They managed to capture
And the
this feeling
music.
of like this really lively town,
The music, of
and
the
then
whole
for that
game,
to be
too.
desolate when you grow up. Yeah,
Yeah, it's massive deal, massive game.
Yeah,
Timeless. It's one of those games
It is
that you
timeless.
should play. You should play it. You should play Ocarina of Time at least once.
Should
If not, the
probably
original
play the
version,
3DS.
play the 3DS
Yeah.
version. But you should play it. It is a
You
piece
should
of
play it.
history. It is up there with the likes of like playing. I don't know what games can we put on the same echelon of must play games.
Unfortunately, Super Mario 64
Like
probably.
Super Mario, playing the
yeah.
original Mario Bros. Games, playing Super Mario World, maybe.
Yeah,
There's a lot of must play games for you to like understand where these games came from.
if you're only gonna play one N64 game ever, it should be
it should be Ocarina of Time.
Ocarina of Time.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah,
There's
yeah.
no comparison. Majora's Mask might have done every mechanic better, but Ocarina of Time
It's
did it
messier
first.
though.
Yeah. It's less messy. It was I won't say it's
very-
perfect,
yeah.
but
No,
it is,
I mean it still has the water temple, but
yeah, it is
which is fine. It's the Iron Boots of the problem, not
There's
the
a
temple.
reason
The water
people
temple's
call it-
good.
the greatest game of all time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it infuriates me when they do that, but I do understand why.
Yeah.
No, I like. I don't agree with that statement, but I can also respect it. Like that's how strong of a game it is. Like even if
Yeah.
if someone tells me the favorite game of all time is Ocarina of Time, like okay, yeah, that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You'd love Twilight Princess.
Yeah.
yeah, right.
That's what I'd say to them.
And plus, I just want to highlight as well the Ocarina. Just-
Yes.
What a
So much
beautiful
fun.
thing to put in this game. Yeah,
Something more games should do is have
Yeah.
MIDI instruments that you can
so,
mess around with.
something Zelda should do is revisit the focus on instruments.
Yeah.
Like
It's
that
been a
was
minute.
such a core theme of Zelda for so long, and now it's not really about that.
I'd love to see an instrument implementation in an open air Zelda somehow.
Yeah.
All right. I Guess
think
I'll go
Yeah,
next?
you go
Yeah?
next, Ahmed.
So my number 3 is drum roll. My number 3 is The Last of Us Part 2. I cannot stress how much I think this game accomplishes in
And-
terms of storytelling. Yeah,
Yes.
what's up,
Can I
Connor?
say something?
Yeah.
I'm just really glad it's not your number one.
Yeah. I mean, it could be though. Like
Yeah.
I cannot stress to you guys, like as two people who have not played this game, how
Yeah.
incredible this game is. Like it's and not in a way that is like unlike every other game on this list where I feel how do I want to put this? Like I feel depressed after playing this game. And I think that is a very powerful thing. And I don't feel that way about any other game on this list. And The Last of Us Part 2, I finished this game. I was super sad, right? Like, there are multiple times in this game where I'm just sobbing.
Mhm.
And then the next day, I played the entire thing again. Like, that's, like, which is, I didn't even, after I've played it, I was just like, I don't want to play this maybe ever
Yeah.
again. And in a good way, right? Like it was just like I experienced this powerful story. Like I'm good, right? Like, and it's a very depressing story. But then the next day I was just like, nope, I want to do it
I
again.
have to do
Like
it again.
I have to do it again. And like I did the whole thing again, and it's a very long game, way longer than any of Naughty Dog's other games.
Really?
Right? This is a 30+ hour game.
Oh my god, I didn't know that. Okay, or at least I didn't remember.
Yeah. So, part of that, like, and I ask myself often, like, why did I do that? Right? Like, why did I play it again immediately afterwards? And I think part of it is the story, right? Like, to get some of the more nuance out of it, like playing it again. But I think the main reason I played it again was because it was just so fun to play, which is wild to say, right?
Yeah.
Like, the actual gameplay is just so good in this game. Like, the only other game that rivals it in terms of like a third-person shooter is Metal Gear Solid 5. That is the only one. Other than that, it is the best a third-person shooter has ever played, period. Like, it's everything so, like, it's the antithesis to something like Red Dead Redemption 2, which focuses so much on realism in its animation that it's very slow to play. Everything in The Last of Us Part 2 is snappy and quick. Like, you've never felt faster, right? Like, you've played Uncharted and even The Last of Us 1. Those games are way slower than The Last of Us Part 2. Like, everything from aiming, shooting, reloading, like, it's very quick and snappy to play. And it's just really good to play. Like, some of the levels in this game, like, what is it? Hillcrest, like that destroyed city district. Some of the levels in this game are just immaculate level design. Like, so many paths through the level. Enemy AI is very dynamic and reacts to everything that's happening in the level. Like, it feels like you never feel safe, right? Like, there's always this constant threat in this game. And especially on like the harder difficulties, like, it really feels like a scrap for survival playing this game, which I think is the way this game is meant to be played. Like, each encounter feels like a struggle, like you're scraping by the skin of your teeth to just survive to the next one. So that's all well and good about the level design and the combat. It's very good, the best in a Naughty Dog game. But I got to go back to the story and the characters. Like, the emotional core of this story is so strong, right? Like, and like, without getting into spoilers, I'm not going to get into spoilers, but Connor,
I'm going to play this game in like 2 months.
You're probably going to be spoiled before that because the show's going to pick back up in April.
I won't watch it if I haven't played the game yet.
Okay. But yeah, like, the way the actors play the characters in this game, it's just like something so powerful in these performances. And like, for me, story is very important in the game. I think if you look at my top 5, right, like, a lot of them are like Persona 4 or The Last of Us. These story-based games, like, story and characters connect with me on a level that sometimes supersedes things like gameplay or levels. I'm not saying it does that for Last of Us Part 2, but I'm just saying, like, it's a very important factor that this game just nails so hard, where it has like performances like this and like acting like this. So yeah, like, the story is like obviously very emotional. I think it does things with the story that can only be done in a video game. I know I've said that before, and that's a very nebulous statement, but I can't really explain what that is without spoiling it. But like, even when the show kind of tackles that part of the game, I don't think it will be as effective, because the only way to elicit that reaction out of someone is giving them the controller and having them play that part, I think, right? So I think that's why The Last of Us Part 2 really succeeds as a video game, is because, like, a lot of the arguments levied against The Last of Us are like, oh, it could just be a movie. But I would argue The Last of Us Part 2 works so well because it is a video game. I really, truly believe that. So I'm curious to see how the show tackles these moments, and if they can get kind of to the same feeling the game elicited in me. I think they'll get close, because I think a lot of smart people are working on that show, but I maintain that this is a game, or this is a story that is best experienced in video game form. So, a lot of words to say that Last of Us Part 2, one of my favorite games of all time. I think it blows the first game out of the water. And I think I curious what happens if there is a part 3. It hasn't been confirmed, but I assume there will be. Like, I don't know if I want to be hurt anymore, but I guess I am a masochist.
Sounds like
see.
it.
But yeah, that's my number 3.
Tough act to follow. My number 3 is Hollow Knight.
Oh, nice.
This is a game that that people are so hungry for a sequel to this game that they are willing to be publicly mocked every time there is a PlayStation Direct, Nintendo Direct, or Xbox Direct.
Put on the clown makeup. It's not happening.
Put on the clown makeup.
This was on my honorable mentions, and I very highly considered putting this on my list.
I'm like no longer like Silksong has been a meme for so long that I'm like not even excited for it anymore. It's kind of come around to like I'm just happy that Hollow Knight happened because it is, I think, still in a strong contender for the best Metroidvania I've ever played. But it's so much more than that because the world building, the world design itself is so dense. It is more so than I think any other game I've ever played. It is just drop you into a pit and let you get lost. And you spend so much time just wandering around lost in Hollow Knight, or at least I did. And you have to learn to navigate Hollow Nest. And like the immersion factor is a real step up on this game over any of the others I've talked about, I think. In that, like, when I think of the City of Tears, I think it's called.
Yeah.
I hear the music. I feel the water. Like it feels damp to think about it.
It does. It's just so remarkable what they accomplished with like 3 people. It's unbelievable.
I get why Silksong has like. How do you follow that? It's because it is one of the greatest games ever.
The pressure
made.
Must be immense.
It is. It just. I don't know, and I've never replayed it. I've only played it the one time. I think it might be time because I've forgotten enough of it.
Yeah,
but. I just don't even know how to talk about this game. They're not even really secrets because you have to do it to get the true ending. But the stuff you have to do, the multiple endings, figuring out what's actually going on in Hollow Nest, and it's not a game without text, but a lot of the story is delivered without text. A lot of it is shown to you, not told to you. A very deep lore in this game that is interesting. It's very difficult to do a one-off game like this and have such a fascinating story.
I mean, it's just a game that nails everything, right?
Yeah.
Like it nails the art, it nails the story, it nails the lore, it nails the combat, it nails the boss fights, it nails the level design.
I mean,
it's just
the sense of fear going into Deep Nest.
Yeah.
The boss fights, it's just a remarkably good game that I wouldn't want to be the one who has to follow it. I mean, my God. Yeah, can't.
I mean, obviously the people who designed this game were brilliant, but like, how? Like, it's obviously on them to prove us wrong, but like, how can you possibly make a better game than Hollow Knight? How? Yeah.
Just the world build, making me love these bugs so much.
Yeah,
a lot of good bugs.
They did so much with so little. Like, no voice acting, just cute little noises, little animations. They conveyed so much character with that.
The way they convey like exploring a dead kingdom in a way that is so reminiscent of Dark Souls, but I would argue superior in world building. For me, I would take Hollow Nest over Lordran, I think. Is that's the one in Dark Souls 1?
Yeah, they're close. I think
they're very close.
Yeah,
and it's really good. It's really, really good.
Yeah, and I was very close to putting this on my list.
Yeah,
I think there will come a day, like you said. I think I've forgotten enough of it where I can play it again. But
yeah, that's where I'm getting to because
it
is a world you learn so intimately that it is difficult to revisit. Immediately after.
Right.
I might do like an Iron. What are they? There's like a permadeath version.
Oh God, I could never. I would get destroyed.
God gamer.
You think you could beat the game without dying?
Not on my first try. But I think I could do it. Yeah. Now, I certainly couldn't do like the Pantheons. Oh my God.
Oh no. Yeah, that's just another level.
Those are absurd.
absurdly difficult. Like that's
Yeah.
the
I
other
never
thing too.
finished
Like
them.
this game has that brutal difficulty for those people who are like into that kind of thing. But that's too much for even me. Like I
Yeah.
can't do that.
I'll pass
All
the
right.
buck for number 2. We're starting on number 2.
I'll go next. My number 2 is Elden Ring. So
yeah, I knew
obviously
it was going to come up again.
It had to be on this list. And like we discussed it at length when you brought it up, Connor, but like one aspect I want to add that means a lot to me, not as much to you, but it means a lot to me, the boss fights in this game.
Yeah.
The boss fights in Elden Ring are just straight up the best boss fights I've ever played in any video game. Like specifically 2 of them, and I'm talking about Malenia and Radahn. Those 2 bosses, and for Radahn, I'm specifically talking about like the DLC, like end of the game, Radahn.
So the 2 hardest fights, yeah.
Yeah, the 2 hardest ones, right? Like I can't express to you, like, and this is not an exaggeration at all. When I beat Radahn, it was a primal feeling. I let out like a primal roar. I like dropped my controller.
Yeah.
I screamed so hard my throat was raw for days.
I haven't beat either of these bosses.
Yeah, but like the achievement I felt in doing it, like it was pure euphoria.
Yeah.
And that's just added on to all the other brilliant things we talked about for this game. Like the world building, the level design, everything, right? Like the open world. But that boss fight layer is another one of those pillars of this game to me that just elevates it so much. Where like it has these seemingly impossible, right? Like the first time I fought Radahn, right? Like even phase 1, it was just like, how am I ever going to beat this guy? But then you'd learn, right? Like, it's not, these games aren't impossibly hard. I think that's a common misconception.
You can learn the patterns.
These games absolutely teach you how to beat them.
And they're a stern teacher, a very stern teacher.
Every boss will teach you, right? Like, and then the first time I got to phase 2, I was just like, this is literally impossible. I don't know how anyone is able to do this.
I'm still on that wall. I can't, I can get to phase 2 consistently against Radahn. I cannot I can't live in phase 2 for more than like a minute.
Right. But, you know, like there is a point where it clicks and you realize, oh, you just have to, you basically have to play perfectly against Radahn.
Yeah, because there's no time to heal in that phase 2. He's wailing on you.
And yeah, like finally doing it, it was one of the most exhilarating things I've ever felt playing any video game. And like a Twitch streamer I watched, Dan Giesling, he is still fighting Radahn. He has played Elden Ring.
It's been a year.
Well, so his play count time has been over 400 hours, right? Because he does other things, right? Like on his channel. But he is still fighting Radahn. He has died over 3,000 times to Radahn alone. Right?
I want to be there when he beats it.
So when he beats him,
he's
gotten close. He's gotten close.
Dude, there's gonna be so many subs.
He knows the fight now. He knows the fight like the back of his hand. It's just a matter of execution, which is very hard in this fight, right? And especially for him because like he's playing it without any vigor. So his health is the lowest it could possibly. That's the whole gimmick, right?
Okay.
He wanted to beat Elden Ring and the DLC with no vigor.
I thought you meant he hadn't beaten it at all.
No.
Okay,
Like, he hasn't because the first time he's playing it is without vigor. Yeah.
What a masochist.
And he's not very good at video games, which adds on to it, right? So I respect it so much because through sheer force of will, he's gotten to the last boss in the Elden Ring DLC.
Dude,
right?
I don't know
like,
if you can say
there.
I couldn't get there with no vigor. It would take me. I couldn't beat it with 3,000 deaths. Yeah.
I don't know. I legitimately don't know if I could do that. Like, I don't know if I could ever beat Radahn with no vigor.
Yeah.
Like that, because literally, it's you get hit, you're dead. That's what he's dealing with. He has to beat Radahn. Obviously, you have the protective bubble, right? Like, so he has one hit. He has one hit, but like you get hit more than once, you're dead. That's what he's trying to do against Radahn. And he's gotten so close so many times. So when he does it, it'll be one of the crowning achievements of that man's career. And I want to be there for it. Like I have that stream on when I work most of the time.
Yeah, I might have to start tuning into that.
Yeah, like
just that's going to be insanely pogrid.
Yeah, I mean, like dude, people are gonna congratulate him like he had a child or
Yeah.
something. Like they're gonna, for days, weeks afterward. You know, like it's gonna be that kind of achievement. But yeah, so yeah, the boss fights. I had to bring up that angle when I talk about Elden Ring because we talked about all the other great parts about this game when you brought it up, but like the Miyazaki boss fight, I think, is such an important ingredient as to the perfection of Elden Ring. So I wanted to highlight that here, and it is my currently right. Like I've said before on the show, Elden Ring is my favorite game of all time.
That's what I expected your number one to
But
be.
when I
Yeah.
did this list today, it landed at number 2. It
Oh my
could
God.
it could be number 1 another time, but today it was number 2.
I think I just
So
realized what your number one is.
you probably know what it is.
Yeah.
Okay, Mike, what is your number 2?
My number 2 is actually BioShock.
Okay.
The original
nice.
BioShock. I said this in a couple episodes. This might be a little teaser for what my number 1 is. But there were 2 games I picked up at a GameStop in 2007, 2008, right? And they permanently changed my taste in games forever. And one of them was BioShock.
Mhm.
BioShock's one of those games that you should play BioShock in some form.
Well, if you're
Like,
not a fan of getting your pants scared off, then maybe not. But
yeah, play BioShock. That doesn't matter. Play BioShock. I've talked about it on the show. I've been playing through it
BioShock's an
again.
incredible game. Yeah.
You're gonna
It's
get jump
such
scared
an
by Jeff
incredible
Keighley.
game. It is a game that has transcended like the culture to the point where if I just say even just mention "Would you kindly," someone
Would
will
you
understand
kindly,
where
yeah.
I'm coming from.
Yeah.
Like that, the phrase "Would you kindly" took on a life of its own with BioShock.
It did. Yeah.
And
What a
that's-
twist. That was an
that's-
insane
It's
twist.
an insane twist.
Yeah.
It's
No idea what you
spoilers for
guys
that
are
game.
talking about.
Yeah, I know, right? Like you
But,
should
like,
play honestly,
you should
like
play
I have it.
for
I need to play it,
history,
yeah.
you need to play this game, Connor.
Yeah. It's like, "Would you kindly?" That's it. That's the whole joke. That's it. That's all you need.
Yeah, it's like if you know, you know. Right?
Yeah, if you know, you know. If you play BioShock, you know exactly where we're coming from, where that twist is going to come out. And it produced one of gaming's most iconic bad guys.
Yeah, it did.
The Big Daddy, Andrew Ryan. Like, you show someone a picture of a Big Daddy and they're like, "Oh, that's a Big Daddy," if they've played a video game in their life.
And it released the
know.
second wave of the most unbearable libertarians the world's ever seen.
Oh my god.
God.
But
High school was a nightmare.
oh god. It's the dystopian society of Rapture and what it has done for gaming as
But
a
also, like,
concept.
what a setting! Rapture is
Yeah.
just such an incredible
It is.
setting.
It's such a beautiful setting. It's so haunting. It's so eerie. There's nothing that Ken Levine did with Rapture that wasn't deliberate. It's dystopian. It's haunting. It's eerie. It looks like someplace that a madman libertarian would create.
It's
you know?
claustrophobic too.
Yeah.
It's covered in ego.
grimy.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's a really good way to put it. Covered in ego.
yeah, it just screams some rich madman decided to build this perfect society underwater, and it went to crap because
Because it
it-
would.
it would. Yeah,
Because of course it would.
of course it would. You throw a bunch of rich, wealthy people under the water, give them access to change anything about them, and yeah, of course it went to crap eventually.
Yeah.
The whole society melted. And just everything about it, the combat, the flow, the sound design, the fact that you come into this seconds after disaster, not even like a few years, no, literally months, like a month after disaster, that there are still sane people down there, even crazier. But you don't see a lot of them. You only talk to them. And sometimes they're revealed to just be as crazy as the rest, just not out to kill you, you know? It's immaculate.
I gotta replay this game, man. It's been too long, and I only ever played it once, I think. Such a good game.
Such a good game.
All right, are we ready for number 1?
No, I got to close out our number 2.
Oh,
Oh
you
my
didn't do number
God.
2. My bad.
The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild.
Okay, it had to
Well,
be.
Had to
okay,
be.
Yeah, that had to be.
I'm like, pause. I'm very glad how our list shook out. I think this is
Yeah.
a very respectable list of 10
Not a
games
ton of
between the three of
overlap.
us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Breath of the Wild. I mean, what do you even say about Breath of the Wild? It might be the only game I've ever bought twice. Because I bought it on the not including remakes. I bought it on the Wii U and then again on the Switch. Played through it, nearly 100%ed it the first time. Did 100% at the side. Well, 100%. I did all the shrines. I didn't do all the side quests.
You did all the shrines twice.
I did most of the shrines the first time. I didn't do all the shrines twice.
Okay. That's
Yeah.
still, that's.
I did like
that's
90
so
of them the
much.
first time, all 120 the second time.
Yeah.
I'm in love with that world. That it is so satisfying to traverse that world, to just like ride the horse around and soak in the ambiance and climb the mountains, and it feels like you're climbing a mountain. Well, it doesn't feel like you're climbing a mountain, but it is gratifying like climbing a mountain. You have to figure out how to get there. You look into the distance and you say, I'm going to do that next. It's very self-driven. You can really, really get immersed in that world. What little writing there is, I think, is pretty good in it. Maybe not like the literal main story, but the side stuff, I think, is reasonably good. It asks you, like, you wander around this world and you want to ask so many questions. And I'm not gonna like do an hour-long diatribe, but it is my love for the world of Breath of the Wild that makes me so disappointed by Tears of the Kingdom, in that it did not follow up on any of that in any meaningful way. Because that's what Breath of the Wild is to me. The dungeons are not that great. The shrines are extraordinarily hit or miss. The combat is outright boring a lot of in the late game. But just wandering that world felt so good in a way very few other games can match. Elden Ring kinda does.
Yeah. I mean, this game came out and changed open world gaming.
Well,
forever.
I thought it would, but like I really can't point at any game. This came out in 2017.
Well, no, what I'm saying is that like there is distinctly a before Breath of the Wild and an after.
But the game,
if you make an open world game in the after era, it needs to be exceptional if it's not taking design principles from Breath of the Wild.
But
otherwise it's not going to hold up.
Like Elden Ring is the only one I can think of that really, really learned from Breath of the Wild, and like everybody thought the world had changed. Nobody could release a traditional open world game again after this. And
well, but that's the thing. Like, it might just be really hard to make a game like this with this kind of design. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can't literally just copy.
Only a few can do.
Because so many games learned the wrong lesson. A million games learned that paragliders are fun, and that is the wrong lesson.
Genshin Impact, Power World, right? Like they all cribbed from.
I actually
Breath of the Wild.
I actually think the paraglider. It's not a mistake, but the best moments of Breath of the Wild, and this is true of Tears of the Kingdom as well, the best moments of the game are before you get the paraglider. Like exploring the my absolute favorite part of the game is the opening with the Great Plateau. And I think it's not that the game gets bad after that at all, but it peaks very early and then is a very slow decline from there, in my opinion. I just love the Great Plateau.
Decline being a relative term because it's still your number 2 game of all time.
Yeah, still my number 2 game of all time, yeah. But what I mean, I just don't even know. You just wander around, you love it. You want to live in that world. It's so cozy. The music, which is rare, but when the music starts playing, you lock in. It's the Guardians are such an interesting enemy. The post-apocalypse in a Zelda game is such an interesting idea. The huge swaths of the map that aren't even in the story that you just go to, and you're like, what is going on here? The ruins, the
size of that map too, man. Like that Hyrule is just such a massive place.
Massive.
Like it's not just. There are stretches of empty, but like it's intentional emptiness to add to the feeling of being like a lone figure in this insanely expansive world.
And there was so much reading into the lore of this game. There were the giant skeletons that were around the map. There were the Zonai ruins and all of that. And all that was really interesting to speculate about. And Hopefully someday we get a game that tells us what the Zonai were.
I doubt it.
No, but I love Breath of the Wild so much. In a way that I'm just no longer certain anyone, including the developers of Breath of the Wild, can recapture what I loved about Breath of the Wild. But we'll see.
I mean,
You know,
it'll
I'm
take
sure they'll
another
try.
kind of paradigm shifting design to
I
do
don't
it again.
I don't
Because like
necessarily
that's
agree
what
with
Breath
that.
of the Wild. Well, that's what Breath of the Wild was, though.
It was.
It,
It was
like
a shift
it
in the-
totally shifted the paradigm and like gave us basically a new kind of game.
But I do think I don't need it to be different. I just want somebody to do Breath of the Wild again good.
But build on it.
But build on it. But a new world, not exploring a world I've already seen with a bunch of gadgets that make it uninteresting to explore. I want it to be a new world, and honestly what I think it needs is good writing. Good writing. It needs like something worth exploring.
Yeah, because like imagine Breath of the
narratively.
Wild is that good with such a bare bones
Such a bare
story.
bones story.
Imagine if it had like an incredible story. It would like probably undisputably be the best
It would
game.
be the undisputed
of
greatest
all
game of all time. It would
Yeah.
yeah, we'll talk in a minute, but it would I think that theoretical game could actually be it could beat out my favorite game, which is something that is difficult to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll pass it. I guess
All right.
it's
Number one, right? Like, should we?
final one.
yeah, number one.
How do we want to do this?
We
all know Connor's. Should we guess
let's-
each other's number one?
Yeah.
That'd be kind of fun.
Yeah. I think
Connor's number one is Outer Wilds.
Yeah,
There's no
100%.
secret there. What's my number one?
is it Astrobot?
No.
Can't be
Okay.
Astrobot.
I thought it might be.
Mm.
Okay.
Is it Uncharted 3?
No.
It's an Uncharted game, isn't it?
No, it's not going to be a Naughty Dog.
Yes.
It's probably
It is.
Uncharted 2.
My
Uncharted
number one
2.
game of all time is Uncharted 2.
I was gonna
among
say, yeah,
others.
it's
Really?
Uncharted 2.
Okay, I wouldn't
Yeah.
have guessed that. I didn't expect more Naughty
So
Dog.
really quick, I forgot to mention. I had more honorable mentions that I want to mention. Disco Elysium was an honorable mention. I
Oh my
really
god,
thought-
yeah. I couldn't believe that.
I really thought about putting this on my list, like on a numbered slot, but I didn't. I also thought about putting God of War 2018 on this list. I really love that game as well. Said enough about it, but there. Those are my two honorable mentions. But Uncharted 2 Among Thieves, yeah, this is my favorite game of all time. When Uncharted 2 came out, because like Uncharted 1, at the time, it was great, right? Like right now, it's just fine. Like if you go back and play it today, Uncharted 1 is like kind of mediocre.
It's middle. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was how first games were back then. The first games were a proof of
But
concept.
like at the time, playing Uncharted 1, I was just like, oh, this is so cool. I've never played a game like this. This
Yeah,
is like
same.
kind of Indiana Jones kind of swashbuckling story about a treasure hunter. Like this is awesome. And then Uncharted 2 came out and just blew my mind to smithereens.
Yeah, it's hard to even put into words the scale of Uncharted 2.
Yeah,
compared
it's
to
just
1.
like the jump. Like we talk about an Uncharted 1 to 2 jump a lot as just like a comparison point in the industry. I don't think any game, any franchise has had a jump like that.
Yeah.
Like that the jump between 1 and 2. Like 2 became an instant classic when it came out. It did so much new, so much innovation with like its set pieces. Like, and obviously 3 is known for the crazy set pieces, but like the set piece with 2 on the moving train, like
Yeah.
playing on the moving train level, that nothing like that had ever been done before.
No.
That was crazy. Like Uncharted 2 pushed the envelope for what a blockbuster game could be. And that, I mean, obviously that's why it's excellent. But why I fell in love with it is the heart of that game. Like, I just freaking love Nathan Drake so much. I can't stress that enough. Like, we'll probably get another Uncharted game, and it will probably be about a different character or, like, his daughter or something. But, like, Uncharted to me is Nathan Drake. I've said that before. I know people don't really agree with that, but, like, if it doesn't have Drake to me, it can talk like Uncharted, it can act like an Uncharted, but it'll never fully be Uncharted. But yeah, I fell in love with that character and the supporting cast as well. Like, how can you not like Sully? Sully is just such a great character.
So,
Elena, fantastic character. And even some of the more ancillary characters like Chloe. Chloe got her own game, you know,
Yeah.
and even like though he was a late addition in Uncharted 4, I thought Sam was a pretty good character as well. But like that core trio of Nathan Drake, Sully, and Elena, just I
It's-
love those characters to pieces.
I don't know what it is about Uncharted that makes, because it is something. I think it's just the heart to it that makes it more believable than like a typical, because it is like kind of B action movie sort of stuff
Right,
that's going
yeah, like,
on. But it's
if it was a movie, it would just kind of be average. But in a game,
in
it's
a game
like
where
triple
it's
S
you
tier.
doing it, and it's Nathan Drake. He's your buddy. he's a guy that you want to buy a drink, like, and you don't care
I mean,
that he could
he'd
steal
probably
your
rob you
wallet.
blind, but yeah.
Like, he's so charming. He's so ridiculously charming, and Sully is not to the same extent and in a totally different way. And then Elena is like grounded and kind of brings it up, like really it brings the trio together. And
Like I love her, like her kind of sarcasm
yes,
and her kind of like straight man responses to Nate's insanity.
I love
It's-
that it like wasn't totally clear that they were going to get together to me in Uncharted 1 going into Uncharted 2. Like by the end of the game, it's
by the end
more
of
clear.
Uncharted 1, it was clear, yeah.
But at the beginning of the
But
game, I did not call
they built up their chemistry really well.
Yeah,
like
naturally.
Even, like for Uncharted 1, right? Like gameplay wise, yes, it's very dated, but the character work it did in that game was very good.
it. Very good.
And obviously like that served as a foundation for 2. So like 2, like it starts with this kind of like in media res thing, right? Because like it works so well on 2 levels, right? Because one, if you played Uncharted 1, you're like, okay, I already know who these characters are and largely their motivations. We're jumping right into the action. And if you don't, you're still blasted with this just out of left field insane opening where Nate's like hanging from
yeah.
a derailed train in the Himalayas, and you're just like, how on earth
And he's
did
been
we get
shot.
to this point? Yeah, he's been shot. Like, how on earth did we get to this point? So it's just such a brilliant opening.
Yeah.
And like immediately it starts blasting you with new characters like Chloe and like not Cutter, he's in 3, but like the kind of the suave villain
yeah.
guy. I forget his name.
I forget his name.
It's been a
too.
while.
I remember the
Um,
big guys, but
Lazarevich or something.
maybe I don't know.
Yeah. The villain in Uncharted 2, like kind of
None of the
forgettable, but,
villains
like,
are that memorable to me.
but yeah, just the and like this one was the first one to do the like the globe trotting, the
Yeah.
swashbuckling globe
Oh
trotting.
yeah, I forgot Uncharted 1's all on that island.
Because Uncharted
Yeah.
1 was all in a jungle in like in one place.
Yeah.
Uncharted 2, you're going all over the world.
Yeah.
And it felt like such an adventure. It felt like I get so much joy out of playing Uncharted 2. Like it just makes me so happy. And like it's funny because like the number 3 game on my list is The Last of Us Part 2. And in many ways it's the complete opposite.
Yeah.
Where I just feel
not-
horrible
Yeah.
after playing that game. But
God.
Uncharted, I cannot play Uncharted 2 without smiling.
I don't think I could
just
hear the
can't.
theme of Uncharted without smiling.
Oh my god, yeah, same. Like that theme. I want that theme played at my funeral, man. Like I
Oh my
probably
God.
wouldn't be tone appropriate,
Ooh, beep,
but like
ooh, ooh.
it's I especially the Uncharted 2 theme because like they I think they change it slightly,
Okay.
but like
I wouldn't have picked up on that, but
it just I love that music.
man,
that
if you want that at your
Nathan-
funeral, you better die in an interesting way.
yeah, right. Like
you better not
it's
have
some
like
kind of explosion or like
you better not like get heart disease
Yeah.
or whatever.
launch myself into space.
Yeah.
I don't- but yeah, I
Mm.
do. The music, I didn't even bring that up, but like the music for Uncharted is just some of my favorite music of all time. Like they just nail it. And yes, it's cheesy, yes, it's adventure-y, but like I guess I'm just a sucker. Like that stuff works on me, man. Like I feel so happy when I play this game. And like yeah, the whole treasure hunting aspect is just so interesting cuz like each game there's a different treasure that you're after and the whole game is constructed around that. Like it's like a race to the treasure, the story about like who's going to get the treasure and like again, One Piece, you know, like
Mhm.
it all kind of leads back to that, but yeah, I love Uncharted 2. I love all the Uncharted games. They're all special for different reasons, but Uncharted 2 is the best and my favorite game. So, yeah, that's That's Uncharted 2.
I guess I'll do mine next. Because we already know what it is.
Yeah,
It's
it's
Outer
Outer
Wilds. And I know I said there's a gap between like 10 through 6, and then 5 through 1 is like way above that. Outer Wilds is so high above every other game that I've talked about that I don't know why I don't know why anybody bothered to make other video games. Like, it is so much better than anything else I've ever played in both that I think, like, objectively, I think it is like something very special, but also in how it appeals to me specifically with its themes and aesthetic. It's a just for anybody who hasn't heard of it, for anybody who hasn't heard me give the spiel before, it is a space archaeology game where you are a four-eyed alien who hops in a ship and you go around to explore your solar system, and you are learning about an ancient extinct species called the Nomai that came to your solar system a very long time ago in search of something called the Eye of the Universe. And you get to know these characters that have been dead for millennia, but you are reading their writing and really getting to know them as individuals and characters. And you are flying around with, like, my favorite space controls of any game, my favorite 6 degree of freedom, both the ship and when you're on foot, in this like little toy box solar system. There's not a wasted inch of space on any of these planets. Everything, it's so dense. And you can only play it once, because once you've solved the mystery, you know the answer. There's no game without the mystery. And
Yeah, there's nothing quite like playing this game for the first time.
but
I can back up everything you're saying.
nothing. I've never, no media anywhere ever has made me feel what I felt at the end of Outer Wilds. Like, I can't say anything about it without spoiling it. But
Yeah.
the way it's like I can't even describe the feeling. It's like a mix of hope and sad and weirdly nostalgic,
Longing,
even.
yeah.
Longing. And then they put out a freaking
Contentment.
DLC that is like 80 or 90% as good as the base game, but takes place in like the coolest setting imaginable and has like a whole nother set of mysteries that is brilliant. And that's what I think is so special about Outer Wilds is it came out in 2019, I think, and it is my favorite game that has ever been made. And I'm almost certain that in the next 10 years, a game inspired by it will be better than it, because it does have room for improvement. There are things you could do better, and you could do a bigger budget. You could have a bigger world, like a Breath of the Wild that has reasonable, like, Outer Wilds tier writing would surpass it in a heartbeat, I think. But
Well, I mean, the story is just so compelling.
It is so
like
special.
what happened to the Nomai,
What
like
happened to the
that's going to be hard to top.
What's happening
I
to
think.
you, because there is something happening to you as well.
Exactly,
You are part
that
of the
whole
story.
story.
And
Like, they can make a game that has better gameplay, even like design than Outer Wilds. But like, story is an important factor in all of these.
some of the puzzle
discussions,
design in Outer Wilds is a little lacking. I will say that it is not a flawless game, but it is a 10 out of 10 recommendation. There's something I've heard said about Outer Wilds a lot, because so many people have played it on stream, and people say that it's your favorite streamer's favorite game, because a lot of people have watched Outer Wilds, but not nearly as many have played it. And it is, don't do that. Do not do that. Go, no matter who you are, go buy this game and play it without reading anything about it, because every single piece of knowledge that you get about this game before playing it is going to take away from it a little bit.
Yeah, I fully back that. Like, I can't stress that enough. You should just play Outer Wilds without knowing a single thing about it.
Yeah.
And it'll be one of the most special experiences you have in a video game.
Maybe not even just in a video. It's just a very special experience.
No, straight up, like one of the most special experiences you'll have.
It's
with a piece of
medium
media.
defining for me. It is like so special. It's so, the second I see like a streamer that I like doing a blind playthrough of Outer Wilds, it's like I drop what I'm doing and I'm tuning in, because it's just so, I don't know, it's so good. I want to, and you can't ever do it again. And that weirdly like has become
that
part
makes
of the
it even
game
better.
to me. Yeah, like because they're the themes of that even kind of coincides with some of the themes of the game.
Yeah, it's just It's brilliant on so many levels.
It's so special. And I'm jealous of anybody that hasn't played it yet because I can't go back. I do. I keep this game installed. I've never uninstalled it. And like sometimes when I'm just feeling a little weird, I'll just boot up Outer Wilds and I'll get in my little spaceship and I'll fly to some of my favorite. I say my favorite areas in the game, but I love like every square inch of this game.
Yeah.
Oh my god! And the soundtrack. I have the soundtrack on vinyl.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Timberhearth
wanna say that,
especially.
like, I think it's interesting because I think you and I have a different relationship with this game where like it was so special to me when I played it, but after I played it, it was just like I don't think I can ever play it again. Like even to just boot it up because
Yeah.
like it would feel almost like this is gonna be a strong word, but it would feel almost like a violation of that
A violation.
experience.
Yeah, I agree. It is a little. But I
It feels that way. Yeah,
can't let it go. It's
and like
so-
it's similar to how I felt about. Well, I was gonna say I kind of felt that way about Journey, but I did
Mm.
play that multiple times. But that first time will always be the most special.
And that camping aesthetic to Outer Wilds, that approach, because I Kerbal Space Program in my honorable mentions is a very special game to me. That got me into like space and stuff and the ideas around it. And the fact that the space, I mean, it's not realistic. It's not realistic in Outer Wilds, but it is like real orbital mechanics are at play in Outer Wilds, and that means something to me. And that like weekend camping trip approach to going into space that they have, the wood in your spaceship and stuff, all of that just I grew up camping. I grew up spending a lot of time in the woods. And it just was the perfect game for me. I don't think you could sit down and make a game for me any better than Outer Wilds. I don't know.
Well said.
That's
Yeah.
so good. No, we gotta guess Mike's
You
favorite.
gotta guess
Yeah,
mine.
what is my favorite game?
It's not an Ace Combat game, I guess. It's
not
not,
an Ace Combat game.
and it's not Warframe.
Not
Prey,
Warframe.
but he forgot
He
about
forgot
Prey.
about Prey. I would have guessed Prey,
Hmm.
I
Oh.
forgot about Prey, but
which is crazy.
Dota 2.
no,
Not League of Legends.
not even an honorable mention.
It's not oh my god, the Valve one, the new one.
No,
new-
it's no Valve
No.
game. We've
I give
already
up.
talked about one of the games in the franchise already.
Oh, it's
Ooh.
is it another Ace or no? It's
No.
BioShock 2?
No,
It's
it's
a
not
Zelda game.
BioShock 2. It's not a Zelda game.
Okay, go tell us.
It's Mass Effect.
Oh, the first Mass Effect.
yeah.
Right,
Mass
cuz
Effect.
you told us this. Yeah, oh my
Yeah,
god.
you
I
did, man. Yeah, of
literally
course.
have
That's
it-
obvious.
I
We're
literally
delirious
have-
after 3
yeah.
hours.
Yeah,
of recording.
3 hours of recording.
I literally have a Mass Relay tattooed on my arm. If Mass Effect isn't
Yeah.
my number one game of all time, then I've
Okay.
already done myself dirty.
In my defense, Ahmed should have got this because he picked Mass Effect 2 and
I
I
should've.
forgot that he picked Mass Effect 2. I thought it was you.
It's Mass Effect 1 is one of those games. I think it's the only game that I played through at least double digits. There was a period of my life where I was playing through Mass Effect every other week, and I still
Wow.
really
Oh
liked
yeah,
the
you were
game.
speedrunning it, weren't you?
Not even that. No,
You-
I was
you
just
were
playing it
speedrunning 3,
casually.
right?
Okay.
I was playing the
Wow.
game casually because it's like I was just so engrossed.
No,
that
man,
I wanted
I
to
get
play
it.
again
I
and again
totally
and
get it.
again.
That world is just unbelievably good.
I
Like
wanted more.
it's the only game where I would just sit down and read the codex entries. Like there's so
Yeah.
many games that have these encyclopedia entries. Never read them. For Mass Effect, I would read every single one. I
have-
just wanted to absorb every morsel of that world.
I have almost an encyclopedic knowledge of every single location in Mass Effect 1 because I played it
I believe you.
so many
Yeah.
times. It's timeless. It might be a little jank. The mechanics might not be the same as in 2 or 3.
That's
but
charming
it's-
though.
It's charming. It's a little hard. But
but just like what a
the
bold
world-
statement. Like
world's
coming
great.
out with that game.
Yeah.
Just
the world
the
is
promise of it.
so engrossing. Every single alien race is so convincingly real, other than maybe the Asari, but even then, like they explain it away perfectly. Everything.
And I like how you have some aliens that are not like humanoid in shape, like the Hanar, right?
the
Is it
Hanar, the
the jellyfish
Elcor.
kind of people.
Oh.
Yeah.
You have the Rachni, the Krogans are humanoid-esque.
Rachni, yeah.
But you have like this nice representation of aliens where some of them are humanoid looking and some of them aren't.
Are
And
not.
are just this alien. They're just a big stupid jellyfish, you know?
Right.
The Elcor are these quadrupedal hulking mammoths of a species. The Volus, I don't even know what the Volus look like. No one knows what a
Like
Volus
mole
looks like in
people
there. Yeah,
or whatever.
they might be mole people. They just wear a suit all the time.
Yeah.
No one knows. Hey, you
Man, like-
have so many diverse races.
Like
of,
all these races had all these distinct cultures and had
Yeah.
all these planets, like, and all of this was fleshed out. Just like I'm mostly directing this to you, Connor, because you haven't played it, but just
Right.
like imagine how much world building has to go into that. It's just
all the council races have multiple codexes, all the way down to like their customs and their like stages of life.
It's just an intimidating game for me to jump into because I don't see it as 3 games for first of all. I see it as like one huge game. If I play Mass Effect,
You
I'm
could
going
see
to
it that
play
way,
Mass
yeah.
Effect. And then I'm not a big RPG guy. Like it takes a
Like-
truly special RPG to hook me. I'm not saying that it won't. It's just you can see why it sits on the backlog and other
Yeah.
stuff gets in front of it
They-
sometimes.
They spend so much time explaining all of these alien races to you that you kind of get engrossed in the world. It's so easy to get lost.
Yeah.
Like you sit there and you listen to this narrator ramble about the Asari for over an hour almost.
Oh my god.
right, because you can have the narrator read the codex to you.
Yeah. the
Oh,
main
that's
codex
actually
entries
sick.
have a narrator that will read
Like
it for you.
While you do other stuff.
No.
Oh.
No, they didn't
Okay.
have that back then.
They
But
didn't have that
they
technology.
didn't have that technology. We can't recreate
had-
that.
The technology to teleport across the galaxy, but not
not an
that.
MP3
And-
player.
And the choices you had to make were even more engrossing, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, and the ramifications of some of those choices are felt in Mass Effect 3.
Like, there's a stage where you have to kill somebody. Someone has to die to progress.
Oh no.
You have to choose one of 2 people to kill.
On your team, yeah. There's
on your
no way
team.
around
There's
it.
no way around
Yeah.
it. There's no avoiding it. You have to deal with the consequences of losing that person, and you will deal with the overarching ramifications of that person dying for 3 games. Granted, they're
Yeah.
kind of the same person, so you
Well,
don't
no.
really lose much in terms of content, but you do lose.
I mean, they have
that
very
person,
distinct
yeah.
personalities. Like, and I don't know, like in terms of like they functionally fit the same slot because they're both like humans.
And they're both.
but they have different personalities, right?
And
They
they're
have
both
different
romance
motivations and
options.
everything. They're both romance options, yeah.
At least in the 3rd game, they're for either gender, but in the first game,
But like,
they are
it's just
only-
interesting. I mean, like, let's just say it, right? Because like, it's like Ashley or Caden, right?
Yeah.
And like, they're so it's fascinating because like, Ashley is a xenophobe. That's one of her defining characteristics in this game.
She doesn't trust
which is obviously very nasty, but like objectively, that's a very realistic thing for a person to feel in a world like
You
this,
know,
where
in-
like
in a
she's
world
like,
where humans are fresh. They're fresh to this galaxy,
Right.
and they had just gotten off a war, not within some of their lifespans with the Turians.
yeah.
Is
So she
Ashley
says
human?
and feels very nasty things
Ashley's a human.
about
Okay.
about other
They don't trust them.
alien races,
They don't know what to
and
think
but like
about
that just adds this fascinating layer to this game where it's not afraid to shy away
Yeah.
from stuff like that. And obviously, there's allegories to like
Right.
race in
You have
our world,
Rex,
but like
Who's just
it's just so interesting.
Are you telling me they
going-
put politics in a game back then?
yeah, going
Oh,
even deeper
heavens.
into like the companions. You had Rex, who's just this Krogan whose entire species has already gotten genocided. They're already
Yeah.
dying.
They've had a
Yeah.
bad run.
They're already doomed, and he's just over the course of the game, he slowly gains more and more hope for his species because of you, Commander Shepard.
Don't you get to choose whether or not like
You can talk
To
him
save-
down.
okay.
Yeah, you can talk him down from killing himself or killing everybody around him.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
like you slowly get to know him, and instead of being this big hulking beast, he's this being with emotions and thoughts, and he's just given up on the rest of his species because all he sees is violence and war, and that's all that
Mhm.
they're capable of. But you, as Shepard, teach him that there's far more. You teach Garrus that sometimes the right thing to do is the right thing to do regardless of bureaucracy. And your morals are stronger than anything else. He kind of takes that a little crazy later on, but I like every character has this arc. You start with
I just love it. Yeah.
Liara, who's
Like-
just this naive scientist who's never seen the world. And by the time you get to the third game, she's now just as jaded and ready to focus on the mission as Shepard is.
Yeah, like the other thing too, like we said this in the Mass Effect 2 discussion, but like the character development, because like the way these games, like these characters span across games, it's just done so well. Like,
Yeah.
because they obviously have complete character arcs within the game, but then they have larger character arcs throughout the story as well.
Yeah, Garrus going
So
from this
good.
person who realized that revenge isn't always worth it, and sometimes the pursuit of revenge will blind you, to a vigilante, like
Yeah.
who just wanted justice for his fellow mercenaries. To I don't even remember what happened to him in 3. Just a military commander fighting for the survival of his species against the end times, basically.
And I didn't highlight this in when we talked about 2, but the villains, like obviously like Saren, but like I'm talking about the Reapers, right? The threat of the Reapers, this existential threat, was always so compelling to me. Like this
It's such a
force
drop
that
in one.
awakens every once in an eon and just wipes out all life.
Yeah.
And then
And-
it goes back to sleep and does it again. Like that's such a compelling thing
and you
to me.
don't
Like
hear
obviously
about them
like
until over
Yeah.
halfway through the game. It just drops on
yeah.
you that, hey, Saren's not the real bad guy. It's the ship. The ship's the bad guy. Saren's just a puppet.
That's some impressive restraint.
Yeah. Like you
Yeah,
get kind
I
of
just-
get hints and
I love
hints
it.
and bits that the ship is more than meets the eye. Like when you met Matriarch Benezia and she's like, I thought I could fix Saren, but the ship started whispering to me. You kind of get little
Right.
hints that Sovereign isn't just a ship and Saren isn't just the bad guy. And then
I just
hit
love sci-fi
Vermeer.
ideas like
Yeah,
that.
you hit
Mhm.
Vermeer and they just suddenly hit you right in the face. No, Sovereign's a sentient being. His ship, sentient. Saren's just a puppet.
Like this ancient
there's
race,
hundreds
older than basically time itself, that has existed, this ancient machine race that has existed for God knows how long, that has cleansed the galaxy of life for as long as
And it's
Anyone
revealed
can
that
remember.
they've created everything. It wasn't the Protheans like you've been to believe that created
Mhm.
all of these mass relays in the Citadel. No, it's older than the Protheans. It's older than the people before the Protheans.
yeah, the Protheans were just the latest in the
They were
line of
just
victims.
the last victims.
Yeah.
The Reapers made it. The Leviathans made it, as you learn later. It goes
So good,
it
man.
turns from this little like standard sci-fi story to this great cosmic horror kind of deal where your enemy literally wants to eradicate all organic life entirely. That's their only goal. That's all they care. They don't care. They're cold. They're unfeeling.
Mm-hmm.
They just want you dead. And you don't really get a lot of that in sci-fi. You can't feel sympathy for the Reapers because there is none to be had.
Right. They're just a cold machine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it makes them very compelling because you just want to stop them. Seeing Shepard go from the first human Spectre to the only reason the galaxy stands a chance against what is certain annihilation is such a journey.
Well said. Well, there you go.
I think it's really interesting how little overlap we had on this, considering
Yeah.
Yeah.
like the games that made us, we were tripping over each other with overlap. Very
Yeah,
interesting.
that's another reason why I thought it'd be a good idea to really focus in.
Yeah.
Because otherwise we might have had some overlap, but like there was only like a couple games, right?
Yeah.
Like Halo 3,
Elden
and
Ring.
Elden Ring. Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think this is a very strong list of 30 games.
God, that's a lot of strong 30 games.
A very respectable list as well. And a lot of variety too. We got like RPGs,
Mhm.
we got story games, we got indie games, we got it all. So, yeah.
So what games
that-
have you guys been playing?
I haven't.
Are we
played
doing
No, we're
that
not doing
tonight?
it. I'm so tired.
I'm so
Yeah, it's like
tired. It's 9
9
p.m. We started
o'clock.
at
I played Avowed. We'll talk about it
8:30.
next week.
yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't really played anything. I've been busy again.
Yeah, well, even if you have, we're
Yeah,
not talking about it.
doing it.
But like, just I guess before we go here, like it's been 200 episodes now, like
I
which is crazy.
Didn't expect
We
us to
started
hit
the show
100.
in we started the show in
2017.
2017
with
It was
Breath
right
of
after
the
when
Wild.
Breath of the Wild came out. Yeah, and we've been doing it consistently for I think
4 years.
over 2 years now.
Wow.
Well, I mean like every week, right? Because
No.
like we've been like because we always put out episodes, but we weren't weekly.
We
until
really started kicking in on
the beginning
going
of
weekly.
last year.
It was
right?
like-
Yeah, beginning of last year was when we said, "Hey, we're gonna actually like not skip weeks." That was
Yeah.
beginning of last year.
We're
Last
gonna
year.
Yeah,
try not to
so-
skip weeks.
Yeah.
And like we've been going strong ever since.
Yeah, we've only
We
skipped
haven't-
one
we
week,
haven't
and it was
missed
the
a
one
week.
we always skip. It was the
Yeah.
Yeah,
the
the
holiday.
January 1st.
You're not gonna take that from me.
Yeah, we get one week off a year.
Yeah.
You can give that to us, right? But yeah, I'm very proud of this show. I think it's come a long way. I think the three of us have become very good at talking about video games.
Yeah, it's so weird talking to my friends that don't do this.
Yeah.
And I talk
Yeah,
to
I
them,
mean,
and I
we-
get like super granular into video games and they look at me like I'm crazy. Like
We have like 300 hours of us talking on the internet now, probably, because we have quite a few 2-hour episodes.
yeah.
Yeah, and this, by the way, by far our longest.
Oh, yeah,
episode.
by-
So
by like an
that's-
hour.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
That's gonna be fun.
317 hours, you know.
You're not sleeping tonight, Em, if this comes out
I honestly
tomorrow.
don't think I'm going to, because I don't think there's much editing that needs to be done. I think, like, kind of a
The
behind the
video is
scenes
just gonna
thing,
take
but,
the
like,
longest.
I think the three of us knowing that this video is going to go on YouTube, there's a lot more focus in this episode than there typically is. So
Yeah.
I don't think there's too much for me to edit.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's good. But I mean, it's still going to take a while.
Yeah,
to,
it's still going to
to
take
do
3.5
everything I need to do.
hours.
Yeah, I still have to like process the audio and everything,
Yeah.
and then like do the video
I'm gonna have to
editing and
Upload the video. That might
a
take
little video editing. I'm
several
not doing a lot
hours.
of video editing.
Oh, yeah, the
Yeah,
videos.
that too. Oh yeah, and
Yeah.
your Wi-Fi's not that good. Oh, how's that
Gonna be a
gonna
little
work?
slower.
Okay,
we should
well,
probably wrap this up then.
Yeah.
That's not your problem.
Happy 200
Yeah.
episodes. Here's to
Yeah,
200
thank
more.
you guys
probably.
for listening. Yeah,
Here's
look
to
forward to
another
the next
200.
next 200. I don't know how we're gonna
Ooh.
top this for 300, but you better bet it's gonna be even longer somehow.
It'll be
because
360
that's, what I
video
do.
VR, and it'll be 8 hours long. It'll be the Game Talk Top 300.
Oh, Game top 100. Like Hammond wants
Top
to
300.
do.
We'll
Yeah.
each pick 100 of our favorite games.
300-hour episode.
I'm gonna have to spend weeks prepping for that.
Just spend an entire year like recording that episode. All right, let's get out of here. Thank you all for sticking with us and for checking us out. Or even if you're a first-time listener, welcome. I know we will probably
Boy,
get
what
a
a
few with our
doozy.
video going up, but yeah, this is what we do. We talk about video games every week, and we're not really in the industry at all. We just three dudes who love video games.
Yeah.
So come hang out in our Discord. We post a link to that in the description of each episode. Please like, rate, and review us on SoundCloud, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube, or any other podcast service you use. Spread the good word about the show. And what else? Am I forgetting something? I usually say something else, right? It's been like 4
I'll
hours.
see you guys next week.
See you guys next week.
Click the link in the description, like us, rate and review us. Yeah, sure, whatever. Let's just end the show. Thank you, Connor and Mike, and I'm looking forward to the next 100 with the two of you.
Yeah, see you next week.
Yeah, see you next week.
See you next week. Bye.